Everybody, my name is Jeff Lightsey Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have a very special guest today. This is student minister Nuri Muhammad. How are you doing, brother minister?
Man, Brother Jeff, I am honored and privileged to be able to share space and time with you, my brother. So I was doing good before I got on the air, and now I'm doing even better.
Hey, this is a great thing to have you on here. I'm so privileged and honored to get a chance to have this conversation. I don't like to call these interviews anymore. I like to call these conversations, and just for you to enlighten us with the wisdom that you're about to. So much so, I felt so privileged that I had to step up my dress game. I had Dr. Wesley Muhammad on here, and it was late at night, and I was like, I know there's no way at 8 o'clock at night Dr. Wesley's gonna wear a suit, and sure enough, he did. So I figured if he did it, I knew you would. So I had to step it up just for you.
Well, it's out of respect, and in particular, a lot of people don't understand. There's even a science behind the suit and the bow tie.
Mm,
As a general rule, anytime you see someone in a suit and a bow tie, they're either doing one or two things. Either they're serving or they are in a wedding, marrying
mm,
someone. So in that context, we wear the suit and the bow tie because we are the servants of God and the servants of our people. So we want to present ourselves to our people as their servant. And then, of course, the same vows that a bride and groom takes to one another, we believe from the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we should have that same kind of spirit and take those same vows when it comes to the mission of the resurrection, restoration, and redemption of our people. So, we look like grooms and servants. And of course, too, the bow tie also is a part of our wardrobe.
mhm.
Wardrobe.
I caught it. I definitely
Yes,
caught that.
whenever you are in guerrilla warfare and you have to establish a beachhead behind enemy lines, you have to dress like the dominant figure of that environment if you want to camouflage and maneuver without being observed as easy. So they wear suits, so we wear suits, and then
Mm,
two, we generally wear a bow tie and it has a clip on it because if we in a physical conflict, if I had my tie on a certain way, someone could reach behind it, pull it, and turn my tie into a noose.
mm.
But if you reach for this bow tie, you'll walk away with a handful of bow tie and a mouthful of fist. So
I love it.
yeah, that's just part of it. But the big thing is it's out of our respect for the platform that God has blessed you with, and out of respect for your audience. And we want our people to know we serve them, and we are here through rich or poor, better or worse, in sickness and in health till death do us part.
I love that. I love that. Once again, we're talking to brother Nuri Muhammad. He is about to, if you've never heard this man speak, you are in for a treat tonight. Just be sure to share and hit the like button because it is going to be a great thing. Now, brother Nuri, before we get started, now we're going to have a lot of relationship talk. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, how did just from what I've read a lot, listened to a lot of your interviews, read some of the articles about you, read your bio. How did kind of a young street hustler from the streets of Indianapolis, Indiana, become student minister Nuri Muhammad?
Oh man, brother Jeff, it was accidentally on purpose. But you know how we open up our conversation. What had happened was,
Yeah.
to make a short, what had happened was, I was young, meddling in the streets, and I didn't like the way I felt hustling. I felt the love in me for what I should love and my own humanity dying as I was killing my people. So I didn't like the way I felt. So I wanted to quit, and I did. And the only thing that I knew to get right is to go to church. So I started going to church with one of my associates in the neighborhood, and his father was an assistant pastor. and they had me going to everything. I was Bible studying, 2 services on Sunday. What I mean, I was doing it all. I was at every meeting, but I still didn't feel like I was I had the strength to resist the pull of the streets. And anybody that's ever been hustling on any level where they were getting any real money, it's just as hard to stop selling as it is to stop using. One's addicted to the drug, the other's addicted to the money and what the money can do for you when you get it. So, I was an addict and didn't know it. So at church, I didn't feel that pull to pull me away from the inclination of wrongdoing again. And my girlfriend at the time, father, was a supporter of the nation, had a lot of lectures and books. She started reading and studying, had already been listening to the minister ever since she was 4. We were only 16. And she laid 2 lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in a book called Message to the Black Man, rocked my world. And I said, this is how I've been believing all of my life. I just didn't know how to say it like this. But from the outside looking in, this looked way too strict for me. I was like, oh man, I think I'll join, but I'm wait till I'm about 73. Wait till I get a little. And then I made a pledge to myself as a teenager. I said, if you can prove it to be wrong, you'll leave it alone. But if you can't prove it wrong, you'll submit yourself to it 100%. So I was spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day studying, learning the teachings, but also trying to see if I could find something wrong with it. And my little argument that I would take 8 hours for 5 days straight, I bring it to one of the brothers who wasn't even in leadership, lay out my whole exegesis of why this can't be. And in 5 minutes, they shut me down. And so, as time went on, I knew that I couldn't prove it to be wrong. And I knew that the scales had been removed from my eyes and I was becoming a resurrected man and operating in what I felt like I had power. So I knew it was the truth and submitted to it. And I guess because I studied so much, Brother Jeff, that when we had our meetings that we could talk, my statements had substance to it. So people were always pushing to put that brother on the rostrum. And I told, man, I ain't come here to be on the rostrum. I told him, I said, I don't want to be in no leadership and I don't want to be in no ministry. I came to be a soldier. And I told him, I said, y'all never catch me in no dress shoes. I said, every time you see me, I'm going to be in some soldiering boots. I want to be a soldier. And they's like, well, you can be a soldier too. And they put me on the rostrum. I spoke. People were standing and clapping. I thought they just was being nice to this little teenage 17-year-old little brother that just joined the mosque. Lo and behold, they were really sincere, clapping and applauding. And they end up keeping me up there. And I end up becoming, as a teenager, an assistant minister. And I end up being made the minister here by the minister when I was the interim minister before I even turned 21.
Wow.
And we end up in about 6 months, we doubled in ranks from me when I was the interim minister. So I became the minister. And we were the most outstanding study group, most outstanding mosque, most improved mosque, all kind of accolades. But that's in a nutshell, that's how this became a reality in my life. It wasn't something that I was looking for. I wouldn't put myself in the category of Jonah in the belly of the fish. It wasn't on that level, but I didn't want the responsibility, nor that I felt like it's insincere. If you want to be in leadership, something's wrong with you. You should want to be a servant. And if it happens, it happens. So it happened.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story, Brother Nuri. And it's a good thing. I know the great people of Indianapolis are happy that you're there, and people across this country and across the world are happy that you're in the position that you are now in. But we are here tonight to talk about black love and black relationships. And you talked about
Yeah.
in that story about how at 16 years old there was your then girlfriend
Yeah.
introduced you to the nation, and for some who don't know, that then girlfriend ended up becoming your lovely wife. And so you have so from 16 to now, you have a pretty good understanding of black love and black relationships. Brother Nuri, when you hear the words black and love together, what does that mean? What if somebody says that, what's kind is that vision to you?
Man, that is a very good question. And, of course, what a blessing it is to be able to break that rule. And me and my wife, we were together when we were 14 years old in junior high school.
Wow.
So, she remembered the actual date that we start calling each other girlfriends and boyfriends. And I guess that meant that she had some awareness in her mind, consciousness that we was going to make it. But we, my then girlfriend became my now wife. But I will say this: don't try that at home. Don't you try that, little young brother and little young sister. There's a website and an organization. I don't know the name of the organization, but their website is called abstinence.com. And it's a website and an organization that tries to promote young people keeping their discipline sexually and keeping their virtue, and wait until they get married before they start interacting with the opposite sex on a physical level. I thought that's a good site, but on it there's a study that they did where they found that almost 99% of all high school sweethearts never make it to being husbands and wives. So that's
Wow.
not, it happened. We was able to crack into that little 1%,
1%.
and I'm thankful for that, but it's not something you should try at home. Black, when most people see the term black, unconsciously we see it in a negative light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of the way that it's been used in language. If you look in the dictionary under the term black, there's 120 definitions. All of them are negative. But you look in the dictionary under the word white, there's 134 definitions, and almost all of them are positive: pure, clean, innocent, holy. But you go to black, as in, you and my brother, y'all were on the line. If y'all wouldn't have made it, y'all would have been blackballed. Look at that. Whenever you're having bad luck, you're behind the 8 ball, the black ball, the last ball to go in. The stock market crashed. It was called Black Monday. You're telling a little bitty lie, it's a little white lie, but you're telling a deliberate lie, it's a black lie. Think of so the math of black as a general statement has a negative connotation to it. The conscious community, a lot of times we use black, and it only is a description of skin color. But black is not just color. Black is also consciousness, and it's also a connection to the Creator. So when I think in terms of black, period, I think color, consciousness, and connection to Creator. Black love is that kind of love that grows out of the color of your spouse the same as yours. Conscious, meaning you care about your people and the rise of your people, and you have a connection to the Creator in the sense that you are moral and you are trying to please God. That's my little take on what black love means to me whenever I hear the statement.
Awesome, brother Muhammad. That is a great way to put it, and that's a great way to start, because we're talking about black love and black relationships, and you gave a keynote at the All Black National Convention this year, and you broke down some statistics. One of those statistics was a long time ago that it would be 90% of black marriages and they in almost 100% of those 90% of black marriages would last. And those statistics, it went to from 90% of black on black marriages to 40%. Just can you break down some of that, and what do you think
Yeah.
are some of the causes to the lack of black marriages that take place now?
Well, of course it did help that it was against the law to marry white women
Yes,
as
that's
black
very
men.
true.
It
That's
did
very
help.
true.
It did help that we were being lynched from looking under a white woman's dress while it hung on a clothesline. But there was a 2015 McKinley Irving family law study where they went and looked at 1867, 2 years up from slavery, so-called Emancipation Proclamation. Whole nother show though, but
Yeah, yeah.
for that, because emancipate doesn't mean free. That's why they didn't call it the freedom of slave. The word emancipate comes from the Latin word emancipere, which means to free from the hand, but not from the control. So once you got certain commands installed into the psyche of a people, you don't have to regulate their hands and their feet anymore, because every voluntary act of the human body must first start off as a thought. And then the thought is what encourages the body to engage in the appropriate muscular activity that matches the nature of itself. So once the mind is locked up, you don't have to worry about the hands and the feet, because the hands don't move if the mind don't tell it. The feet don't kick if the mind doesn't tell it, etc. But in 1867, they found that out of eligible adults, black adults that could be married, 90% of all black adults were married to a black man or a black woman, and they had a near 100% success ratio. 2015, there was only 40% of black adults that could be married actually being married, and they have a 75% divorce rate. So if you've got 40%, that's 4 out of 10. And if you got a 75% divorce rate on top of that 4, that means for every 3 couples or 4 couples you see, 3 of them are not going to make it. So only 1 out of 10 will survive to meet the word that they gave, till death do us part.
Wow.
So part of it, of course, was that, number one, we had to unite with each other in order to survive. And it was against the law for us to even look at a white woman. You could literally not just be incarcerated, you could be lynched for a crime called reckless eyeballing.
Wow.
And when you were charged with reckless eyeballing, the slave master's children would come and grab you and lynch you for looking at a white woman too long. So part of it, that fact that we were connected to with our own woman as the only option and our own man as the only option. And we were not, how can I say this? We were in Africa and we had become strong. We was there living and conquering the jungle for 50,000 years. And we inherited a certain amount of resilience that allowed us to be able to endure the suffering of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery imposed a whole nother level of treachery on us. And then the next generations, they were able to have that genetic resilience to be able to survive in the recent years up from slavery. But now it appears as though that resilience, that strength, that fortitude that we once had is now beginning to wear off, and we're not as strong as we used to be. So I don't know how to say it, but we punk out too much. We punk out too much on everything, including marriage itself. So we have that pattern now of giving in when struggle shows up. We have the most damnable disease that's killing black people is not high blood pressure, diabetes, or AIDS or cancer. It's excuseitis. And unfortunately, Brother Jeff, is even integrated and transferred over into the category of black love. Then when we put our word out there, because we were still somewhat connected to the genetic memory of our God-centered African culture, where we said, my word is bond and bond is life.
Mm-hmm.
And I shall give my life before my word shall fail. So when we gave our word that I will be your husband and I will be your wife through rich or poor, better or worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, our word was bond. But now, with excuse-itis, with this high level of punking out on everything, with the loss of resilience, our word is not bond no more. Our word has become blonde. And blonde is weak, recessive. So we got to get back and return to our core system of values, where we knew that the family unit was really our power base. And when we knew it, we behaved like it, and we executed, invented, and built civilization. Now today, we don't see it like that, and we are the subject of being the number one consumers, but not producers. We are employees, but not employers. We work somewhere, but we own very little of anything. We have $1.3 trillion in income, but still only have 1% of the wealth of this country. That's fast, accurate, brother Jeff. You didn't get that. You didn't catch that.
I caught it. Trust me, I did. I definitely did. You're a lot more poetic with your words than I am, but I definitely caught it for sure. Once again, we're talking to student minister, Brother Nuri Muhammad. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, because we are talking about Black love and Black relationships. Now, Brother Nuri, you talked about love, not your word not being bond, but being blonde. And what that made me think of was something that you spoke about during your keynote about this thing that you called Beckery. If you could, please explain to the audience what exactly is Beckery and what do you think that's doing to our community?
Wow. Well, you know what? Anybody that remembers the song Lemonade by Beyonce, when she talked about Becky with the good hair, you know, it sounded like she was talking about a white girl sliding in and on her man. So Beckery, I was making a joke, you know, I was joking but serious about how every so often they present to the ICD-9 book, which is a book of symptoms, to determine what a new condition is going to be that they're going to be able to diagnose and treat and prescribe, whatever. And I said I wanted to introduce a new condition to the book since they're doing it. It's called Beckery. What is Beckery? Beckery is the mental and the psychological mental and psychological castration of a Black man as a direct result of a long-term relationship with a white woman.
Ooh.
And
now, Brother Nuri, you're not gonna make a lot of friends saying stuff like that, but continue.
but if we all you have to do, see, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. He said, out of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward the researcher. Scripturally, look at the story of Samson and Delilah. Delilah was a Philistine and Samson was a Black man. He had locks, and they had tried to defeat this man all the years that he was winning as a warrior. They sent whole armies after him, couldn't break him, couldn't beat him. And so their last trick was to send a Philistine woman in to see if she can get close to him and break him. Philistine people are Caucasian. Next thing you know, you start hearing about Samson's locks being cut off and he had lost his strength. And ask any Black woman, can they spot a Black man that's with a white woman, even if the white woman's not present? And I guarantee you they'll tell you yes. You know why? Because as a general rule, they're a little softer, a little more punctified. They're not as masculine as they should be or would be if they was with that queen. So we were breaking it down, showing that, you know, whenever Napoleon was hired in the mid 1800s, he was hired by the King of England and other European rulers to go into Africa and destroy all of the images of Black excellence. So he was getting rid of any image of the disciples that were black, Jesus black, Mary black, prophets that were black, angels that were black, and any signs of black excellence. And one of the things that he did was when he found that great pyramid Giza in Egypt, which is 451 feet tall and 451 feet deep, covering 13 and a half acres of land made of 1 million stones of gold, granite, and marble, stacked mathematically precise, east to west, north to south, up in the air, down into the earth. And we built it without John Deere or Caterpillar. We didn't even have a bulldozer. It was the power of the mind. Telepathy did. That's how powerful we were. So after he went into the pyramids, he noticed that the great images of what would be considered the gods, Osiris, Alafun, the great gods, Asa. Every time they seen Osiris, Isis was with him. Every time they seen Asa, Aset was with him. Every time they seen the great god male, Alafun, Illidah was right by our side. So when you go into the pyramid now, you can still see Alafun, you can still see Osa, you can still see Osiris, but next to them, somebody scraped away the image. And that image that they scraped away was them being with that black queen. Why? Napoleon knew that he could not allow a message to be sent down the line of time that not behind, but beside every strong black man has always been a strong black woman. So we want to try to, he was trying to start the disease of Beckery way back then. Here we are in 2021 and it's become full blown.
Once again, we're talking to Brother Nuri Muhammad. If you haven't noticed by now, the man's on fire, and we're just getting started. Now, Brother Nuri, I heard, there was a saying that I heard once. I first heard it from Brother Ben X, and it was from Minister Louis Farrakhan. He said, romance without finance is a nuisance. And I heard you say the same thing. And I was like, my mind was blown when I had first heard it. And then it was blown even more when I heard it the second time. For our audience, what does that mean? And why is that so important?
Yeah, well, that's one of them old sayings. I call it from the gospel of Big Mama. You know, we might have learned it from the minister, but it's an old saying that we had. And you know, when I say the gospel of Big Mama, people know what I'm talking about. It's some stuff that Big Mama said that's just as true of what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John said. Birds of a feather
flock together.
That's not the Bible. That's Big Mama. You lie down with dogs, you're going to get up with fleas. A family that prays together
stays together.
Wise man learn from others' mistakes. Fools learn from their own. You know, a woman will either make you or break you. That's not Quran. That's Big Mama that said that. So it's some stuff Big Mama didn't put out, you know, and one of them was romance without finance is a nuisance. Why is it? Because the nature of a woman is to put demands on the nature of a man, and the nature of a man is to put demands on the nature of the woman. And when you unpack the variables of the scriptures of the Old Testament, New Testament, or the Holy Quran, no matter which one you look at, it says by nature, man is maintainer, protector, provider, and woman by nature is helpmeet, comfort, and consoler to her man. So anytime that you have romance and there's no finance, how can you maintain? How can you provide? And if you've got maintain, protect, and provide as the three universal codes that you find in the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Holy Quran as the nature and natural function of a man, then at best, all he can do is protect, but he's missing the two other primary ingredients if he doesn't have any finance, because without finance, you cannot provide. Without finance, you cannot maintain. So it becomes a nuisance because it is the nature of a woman to put a demand on the nature of her man, and she's going to want and desire, not because she is, as they say, high maintenance or whatever, but it's the nature of a female. She wants to be made secure, and she becomes secure when that man is a maintainer, protector, and a provider. And without finance, without money, you're not going to be able to fulfill maintenance and provision. So it becomes a nuisance. That's where the nuisance becomes. It wasn't a saying that men came up with. This was a saying that came from women based upon life experience. I then got connected to a man. He don't have no money, no know-how, no will. He's non-productive. Therefore, he's a nuisance. And no woman wants to be with a full-grown boy. Every woman wants to be with a man. And when you put a diamond on the finger of a woman, she's excited, but the real thing she wants more than a diamond on her hand is to be holding hands with a man that has become a diamond among men. And you can't be a diamond among men unless you know how to hunt, unless you are a go-getter, unless you know how to go out and conquer matter, energy, space, and time, and bring back material reward to build a legacy for your family.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely, Brother Hamid. That was the perfect definition to that very, very great saying by Big Mama. now, Brother Muhammad, now but what about this? I want to pose to you this, though. There are a lot of women who say that they're independent, who say, what do you say to those women like, I can make my own money. I may not need a man. I can do this. There's a lot of independent women out there to that and say like, hey, I don't always need a man to be my best. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it is true. And it is a survival mechanism at this point. And I would be crazy to tell a woman, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Just wait around for you to meet a good man. As soon as you meet the good man, you can start having the things in life that you desire. But until then, just sit around and be poor, broke, hungry, naked, out of doors, with nothing, doing nothing, just waiting on a man. No, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the woman, the black woman in particular, should be free to do anything that her heart desires, and she can do anything in the way of righteousness without violating her nature that a man can do. So it's nothing wrong with you being like that and being productive. In Islam, whenever a man marries a woman, it is customary that the man brings a gift of something monetary, either cash or something that has a cash value, and gives that to his new wife as what they call a dowry. And in Islam, whenever you marry a woman, what's hers remains hers. You don't get none of it. But what's yours becomes hers too. So it's nothing wrong with you having that spirit. It's just whenever you are in that zone and it's out of a compensation for the non-productive man that you're with. And I think that you would be wise as a woman if you know that romance without finance is going to become a nuisance. If that man doesn't have the skill set to go out and maintain, protect, and provide, then he's not worthy of becoming your husband yet until he gets to that status. If not, you're going to be married to a man, but you're going to be treating him in your mind, you will lose respect for him. And it's gonna really upset the balance of the home, because the language of a man is honor. And the language of a woman is security. She wants to feel secure emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially. She wants to feel secure. But the nature of a man is honor. And when that man is a non-productive man, he won't receive honor from his mate, and at a certain point, it's going to serve as a means of weakening the man even more, and he's not going to be loyal to you. He's going to be gone. So no, sisters, I understand. You know, it is a unfortunate circumstance, and it's not by accident; it's by design. I encourage all of the viewers to Google the Willie Lynch letter and Google the "Let Us Make a Slave" document that comes from that letter of Willie Lynch, and look at the particular chapter or section on the breaking of the nigger female. And when you look at what he says, in paraphrasing, that make her to be independent of her man. By doing so, you will put her into, listen to this, he said, a frozen psychological state.
Wow.
Where she will begin to train her offspring to be as you would make them if you were their parent. Talking about slave masters. So check it out. They know that that's not the nature of things. The woman is not born and created by God to handle an undue amount of stress. And the minute that you become so independent that you have to become maintainer, protector, provider, and comfort, and consoler, and homemaker, and mother, when you have to do all of that, you are putting yourself under too much stress and pressure. You're weighing other than your own self psychologically. It's only a matter of time before it destroys you health-wise and emotionally. So it's not a good system, but I understand it for survival. Be as you have to be, but encourage that man to be as he should be. And when he gets to that point where he is that hunter and that go-getter, and he is able to do for you and your family, then let that stress go and let him carry that burden. Smile and live a stress-free existence, because you got a good man that knows how to take care of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Brother Nuri Muhammad. And now, Brother Muhammad, you have a series of books. Now, one of those books is titled Before I Say I Do. What are some of the things that you suggest to flourishing couples that are dating that you would advise, and some of the things they should think about or maybe even consider before they say I do?
Well, that's a very good question. And this book is Before You Say I Do. This book is really designed to assist really a black man and a black woman on proper mate selection. If you notice, rich white people always marry rich white people.
It's very true.
And the reason that you see families marrying similar families among the Asians, the Jews, and Caucasians is because they are trying to keep a certain breed or a certain species of their people alive. So they are very selective. It's the same as it is with the dogs, the horses. You don't mate different breeds of dogs with one another. You don't mate different kinds of horses. You have a horse that is for carrying a wagon or one that's a race stallion. You marry stallions. You put stallions with stallions. So mate selection, is so important. In fact, I'm gonna step out of here and say this, Brother Jeff. Outside of belief in God, choosing the right mate is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
Wow.
Because when you choose a mate, either that mate will inspire you to grow into your greatness, or they'll confine you to complacency. They'll either be your other half, or they'll make you half of yourself. The minister said this one time. He said, a good mate brings out the best in you and makes you more youthful. And a bad mate brings out the worst in you and causes you to age prematurely. So choosing a mate is the most important decision other than belief in God you ever going to make. Why? That's why. So phase one, remember brothers and sisters, what is marriage called? It's called holy matrimony. It's called a sacred union, or in some writings, they call marriage a covenant connection. Covenant connection, sacred union, and holy matrimony. These are all spiritual terms. So when you are going to choose a mate, you should be looking more at spiritual and mental characteristics than you are looking at physical characteristics. And one of the things that we learned is that, see, before we were kidnapped and Caucasianized and Westernized, there was no such thing as dating among black people.
I didn't know that.
We courted. We courted one another. Even, have you ever seen The Godfather?
I have.
You do know, we don't have time to go into it, but the Spanish or the Italians. The Italians adopted many of the customs of the Moors, which were African Muslims that conquered Spain and went into Italy. So a lot of their habits that you see among the Italians are very similar to Muslims. We greet each other cheek to cheek. They greet each other cheek to cheek. They have brotherhood. They don't discuss certain things at the dinner table. It's about family. But you remember in The Godfather that when Michael was in Sicily and he was interested in a female, they went out walking with each other. But when the camera panned up, behind them, 100 feet away, was that little girl's whole family was out there. It was about 15 deep. They learned that from our African customs. We did not believe that we should ever engage in physical contact with one another until we were married, and that any time that we were even alone with the opposite sex, we would have a chaperone with us to make sure that we didn't get too excited, too physically attracted to one another, and then end up engaging in premarital sex. Sex, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, has a blinding quality to it. It floods the brain with so many chemicals, the serotonin, the endorphins, the adrenaline, and the dopamine that the brain is flooded with being sexually active is so strong that it begins to really corrupt the prefrontal cortex, which is the place in the brain that deals with judgment. So once the judgment centers of the brain have become, for the lack of a better word, distracted and distorted, now you can't even see the negative spiritual or psychological, mental, or personality traits anymore because you're too infatuated with the physical. So we, in picking that mate, say don't date, court. Dating is just two people involved with each other and whatever happens, happens. But courting is when two people are only communicating with each other because in their mind they have at some point finding someone that they're going to marry, and they're not going to be physical till that point. I know this sounds rough and strict.
It's real rough and strict.
You think about, I think you think about people talking about how hard it was to have Steve Harvey put out something called a 90-day rule. Oh Lord, how we? No, but if you really want to be serious and you want to have what you're looking for, which is that happily ever after, you got to do it right. You can't take the wrong road and expect to end up in the right place. That's the way it goes. So that became an issue. And what happened, Brother Jeff, is that talking to people all over the country, we were being invited to speak by all different kinds of people at different sets. But almost always the freedom fighters, the revolutionaries, the activists that brought us in, they always had domestic or relationship problems. And I said, man, do you know your home is supposed to be your spiritual recharge center? It's supposed to be the place that you unplug from this wicked white supremacist world, and you can come home, let your guard down, and come to an environment where you can plug into a pure source of love and extract peace and power from your home. But man, if a man or a woman is out fighting for their people, fighting to make a living, and then they come home and they got to fight again, how are they ever going to have the energy on either side to perform well for freeing the people, well for building the business, or well for each other as husbands, fathers, and mothers and fathers? So I kind of really was tired of having these little sidebar meetings all the time. So I said, let me see if I can come up with something that can help stop this a little bit and help it. And I did Before You Say I Do, and then we kept going, and then everybody said, well, I'm already married, I still want to talk to you. I was like, I got to do another After You Say I Do. So now I got both, before and after you say I do. And I just say, look, take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
Like an aspirin.
like old doctors used to say when they going door to door with them little leather bags. I say, take 2 of these. So far, we haven't had anybody really call back because they've been pretty good guides in helping mate selection, and then really helping to practice what I call courtship after marriage, which is also a system that keeps things going and alive that's in the After You Say I Do book.
That's awesome. You can find both of Brother Nuri Muhammad's books. You sound like a doctor. That's why I was like, man, you're prescribing the right medicine right there at NuriMuhammad.com. That right there at NuriMuhammad.com. Now, Brother Nuri, I don't want to keep you all night, but I do have just a few more questions. I do want to ask you. I want to backtrack a bit. You spoke about. Well, I wanted to ask you about interracial relationships. We're talking about black love. We're talking about black marriages. We're talking about black, being together, black relationships. But there is an influx of interracial relationships that take place within, particularly for the black men. Let's call the brothers out, because it's really happening. Sisters happen, but it's really the brothers. What do you think? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm more of an advocate of, I feel like black men should devote themselves to black women, but I don't judge the guys that do otherwise. But what are kind of your thoughts on the interracial relationship thing?
Well, we don't believe in it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was taught by God that, and common sense tells us, anytime that you are with someone that you call your spouse, you call them your mate. Mm-hmm. Well, go in your closet and pick up a red Reebok. Go in your closet and pick up a pair of white Air Force Ones. Go in your closet and pick up some Concord 11s. If you have one Concord 11 in your hand and you go to the closet, or somebody goes to the closet and comes back out with a red Air Force One, say, here you go. You say, no, this ain't the mate that goes to this shoe. Why? Because it doesn't look like. It has to be the counterpart of. It has to be the match to. It has to be the mate of. So that should be a criterion in mate selection. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did say this, though. He said, love can transcend color. He said, however, the problem with us is that we did not choose a white woman instead of a black woman out of love. We chose it out of a sickness where we feel closer to our slave master, therefore we feel successful. We actually believe, and you look back, and as we gave the example of in the beginning, why was it easier for us to stay married to a black woman, or a black woman to a black man? And it's because they wouldn't allow us to even look at a white woman's dress while it hung on a clothesline, let alone be, looking at a white woman or being in a relationship. You can get lynched for reckless eyeballing. Well, look at what happened to us. Do you know that Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the early 1900s was not the only place in America where there was independent black economics operating? there was Rosewood, there was other places.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we had our own dry cleaners, banks, grocery stores, bus lines, hotels, restaurants, is because white people would not let us in theirs. So because they would not let us in theirs, because of segregation, we
Mm-hmm.
were forced to build for our own, and we didn't just survive, we thrived
Mm-hmm.
doing for self. But the minute that Negroes start going into the sitting at the bar stools and getting spit in their food, rate water hose and beat, I want to sit on the toilet next to white people. I want to get drunk next to white people. I want to sleep in a little nasty hotel room next to some nasty white people. The minute that they said, all right, you niggers can now start eating with us, coming to our movie theaters. You can start going to our cleaners, our grocery stores, and sleep in our hotels and ride on our buses. Guess what happened? Our hotels busted. All the black
Disappeared.
businesses went
Disappeared.
away. So,
Mm-hmm.
so integration with white people meant disintegration of black power in the sense of economics. Turn that into this whenever you have black men running with another woman. Integration ends up becoming disintegration of the power base of black people, which is the black family. So
Mm-hmm.
it is not that love can't transcend color, but what made you like them enough to choose them over someone that looks like you and came from the same life experience? I said, and even if you don't want to get into the Quran or the Bible in the story of Samson and Delilah, your mama's a black woman. How are you going to watch her suffer and struggle all those years trying to do for you, and then you want to pick somebody that looks opposite of her? Brother Jeff, the black woman has been the most loyal woman to her man more than any other woman of any other nationality, race, or group of people on the face of this earth. She deserves to be maintained, protected, and provided for. We owe her a debt to look out for her and make sure we take care of her like she's been taking care of us all of these years. So that system of doing it, and I'm saying that if you have already made a commitment to someone, I'm not telling anyone, and we don't promote that from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you made marriage vows, we're not going to tell you just go get a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you've already committed, then you should honor your vows. But I will say that in order for you to reach your full potential as a black man, you're going to need that precious black woman with you to help bring out the best in you where you can reach your full potential.
Wow. Wow. Once again, this is why we had Brother Nuri Muhammad on. He drops the gems. He gives the facts. This is what we love to hear. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button and share this video. This needs to be seen by as many people as possible because we love what the student minister, Brother Nuri Muhammad, is saying right now. You're giving a sermon. I feel like I'm in church right now. So I see what the good folks at Indianapolis, what mosque number 74, correct?
Yes,
Mosque number 74. I see what they get each and every week, each and every day, because this is amazing. Now, Brother Nuri, I'm gonna get you out on this. I want to say, now during your keynote, you spoke about how black men and black women want to be loved differently. I'm not going to tell you to give that whole 45-minute speech. If you want to go see that, we have that at allblackdigital.com. That's allblackdigital.com. But what, just if you can, just summarize that just a bit about how black men and black women love to be loved or respected or loved in different ways. Just kind of, if you can, just I know it's gonna be hard, but just kind of summarize that in a bit. We don't have to get the whole acronym, but just a little how they like to be loved and respected in different ways.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, I learned this from the minister once. There is gender specific commands from God on how a black man can get the best out of his woman and how the woman can get the best out of her man. And even though we are two twin halves of a single essence. As the Quran says, we are different in the way that we receive and the way we are communicated with when it comes to love. You have some people that wrote a book, they call it the 4 love languages. I don't know how accurate that is, but I know that in Ephesians 5:33, there's a verse that says this: and men should love their wives as they love themselves, and women should respect their husbands. I said, wait a minute. Why did it say love when man to woman, but respect from woman to man? As you heard me say earlier, the language of a man is honor. So we, in that message called How to Love a Black Woman and How to Love a Black Man, we went through what it means to love and what it means to respect. So in the context of love, they did a study in 2012 on the Today Show where they interviewed women all over the world to find out what is it that they were looking for in a man. Different groups of people, different nationalities all over the earth. And they kind of consolidated it into 4 basic ingredients that all women were looking for in their men. And 1 was loyalty. 2 was to love. 3 was to labor, meaning they wanted a hardworking man. 4 was to listen. So loyal, and you know that as a general rule, women are one man, one women, but men have not been one woman men. So they were looking for somebody that, as Kendrick Lamar and Rihanna said, had some loyalty. And then they wanted someone that would love them, labor for them, and listen to them. And the 5th thing that they said was laughter, had a sense of humor, made them laugh. And we added to it. You can't just be no good man to a woman if you know how to listen, make her laugh, you labor, and you know how to love, and you loyal. The minister said this. He said, an ignorant man will never be a good husband to a woman. So you also have to be a learned man. You got to be learned. You got to be smart. So that kind of a breakdown is what makes love from a man to a woman bring out the best in her. And then respect. We took respect and broke it down into an acronym. And the acronym is when every letter in a word represents another word, like CIA, the Cocaine Import Agency, and FBI, find a black man to incarcerate, media most effective devil in America. You understand what I'm saying? Respect. So the R, we're not going to break it all down, but R stands for respect itself. Show honor to your man. Respect him. Show him that you have a sense of dignity in looking up to and you admire him. E stands for esteem. And esteem is a little different than worth. When someone has self-worth, that means what they think about themselves based off of what God said about them and what they see in the mirror. But self-esteem is what you think about yourself based off of how other people see you. So if you're going to esteem a man, you have to show him honor and respect in front of people that he honors and respect. And then the S, we broke it down as it stood for his sight. Stay beautiful. Smile at that man. Let him know that you're happy. If hopefully you are happy, because if you're not happy, I'm gonna say this to the brothers: the goodness and the greatness of a man is heavily determined by the size of the smile of the woman that's with him's face. If you want to know how good you're doing and how great you are as a man, look at the size of the smile of your woman. If she ain't smiling that much, you ain't doing too good. Then of course, sensual touch. Men are more physical than women, so you have to be, as a woman, you have to know that he's more physical and give him more sensual touch. And then the P stands for I believe we broke it down to represent power, or show him that he's powerful, or that you are proud of him. Honor him, compliment him. And then, of course, the other E is eating. What food do you feed him? You don't want to just be as a wife. You don't want to just be a cook. You don't even want to just be a chef. You want to be a food scientist that knows how to study what his purpose for living is and what kind of energy output is required for him to perform successfully at what he does to make a living for you or your family. And then you figure out the balance of carbohydrates, protein, and amino acid, what fruits and vegetables go well together that give him the strength and keep his health up so that he can eat good at 6 o'clock on Wednesday and wake up early on Thursday, ready to go conquer the world for you. So eat. And then the last is C, show compassion to that man. Men are more sensitive than they act to be. Be kind, be compassionate to him, speak to him in a kind way, and show him that you care. And last, the T, train your children to love their father. Train your children to know that what the father is out there doing. Because, as a general rule, Brother Jeff, children don't spell love Love. Children spell love Time. So what they deem as love is spending time with them. But when a black man in this world is trying to survive, normally we got to work so hard that we don't have a lot of that Time. But if you've got a wife that would train the children to love their father and let them know daddy's not here, but he's out there putting in work to make sure that you have that coat, that you have those shoes on your feet, that we have something to sit down on, that we have a warm home and we have food in the refrigerator. That's his love for you. So when he comes home, soon as you hear them keys jingle, that door open, you run to that door and you jump on your father, tell him how much you love him and that you missed him. So that's kind of a simple little formula to love her and her respect him. And if we follow that little simple template 7 days a week, 365 days in a year, we would be back at 90% of all adults married again with a near 100% success ratio, staying together. Good black man with a good black woman, building a future for our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those who are listening, please give Brother Nuri Muhammad a digital round of applause. Brother Nuri Muhammad, you were a blessing to all of us tonight. We appreciate you coming through. You can connect with Brother Nuri Muhammad. They got him banned on some social media, some shadow banning going on, which is super garbage, but you can understand why. You can understand why, because if we had 1 million or 10 million or 100 million Brother Nuri Muhammad's in this world, our community would be a better place. You can connect with Brother Nuri Muhammad right here at NuriMuhammad.com. That is NuriMuhammad.com. Thank you all for tuning in. Brother Nuri, I want to say on camera, thank you so much. This was an honor to share this space with you tonight. I appreciate it so much.
Man, thank you, Brother Jeff. And I look forward to coming back and being with you again. And I just challenge you to field the questions that come from the audience. And then in a few weeks, come back.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Take questions that came from the people as a result of what they might have heard today. And no questions, off limits. And let's have that raw conversation so we can get our power base back.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. For those who want to, you can send your questions to Brother Nuri right here at his website, or to me right here on Instagram. That is at JLightsy7. That is at JLightsy7 on Instagram and Twitter. I appreciate you once again, Brother Nuri. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we will see you next time. God bless. Peace. Brother Nuri.
You're a little bit off basis from what I understand.
Woo, child. Hey, everybody. I'm just sitting here having a fun time talking to two men who are therapists, and there ain't nothing better in the world than a man who is a therapist and understands all of the psychology of relationships and understands what's healthy and what's not healthy. And we're having a good conversation behind the scenes here, but I'm going to bring all y'all in here because I am so excited today. Of course, today is Monday, and this is Mental Health Monday, and I am Dr. Alicia, and I am joined by two men, real men, y'all. Joseph Carley with Vulnerability is the New Sexy. Y'all check him out every Tuesday night. Hello. He's bringing the male voice here on this platform, and I think it's so wonderful. And he got his friend in here, Carlos with a K. Look at that. Carlos Lyons.
No better way.
The better way. I love it. It's the better way. Have confidence in who and what you are. And that's what I'm getting from you, Carlos. And y'all know, we're going to talk about men and intimacy. But listen, y'all listen to these two men because they're going to be joining me. Valentine's Day weekend, hello. And y'all have to tune in to my my wonderful event that I have, Valentine's Day weekend. That is February 16th and 17th, 15th and 16th, Saturday, February 15th and Sunday, February 16th. I'm doing a special Black Love Weekend. It's Intimacy Edition, and I'm going to have these two gentlemen on here with me. And if you go and sign up for the VIP, you'll get to have their wonderful ear, and they'll be able to talk to all of the men about what masculinity really is and what it means with intimacy. And I'm so happy to have both of them here today as we talk about this topic. Oh, let me give y'all the website. Listen, go to, theblackloveweekend.com and sign up. I'm going to leave the website up, but I'll go back to the website. I want to let everybody know that when you want to be notified, when I do all my little wonderful interviews that I have, like today, text LOVE, LOVE, to 87948. And then you'll get updates on when I have conversations, when I am here doing YouTube videos and on Facebook. Hey, everybody on Facebook. I see y'all on Facebook. But anyway, y'all go to theblackloveweekend.com. It's $99 for general admission. You get 2 days of workshop. You get to my brain all about intimacy, all about what it means to be connected and be connected with the person that you love. Hello. And I already got people signing up. We got the early bird going on right now, sale going on, the Black Love Weekend. If you want to do the VIP, because the VIP you'll have it be in contact with Joe and Carlos, and they're Black male therapists. Hello, you get to talk to them and have one-on-one interactions with them. And so I think that is super duper valuable. So be sure to check me out, theblackloveweekend.com. And that way you'll be able to sign up. And if y'all men out there who are tuned in, y'all want to know what to get your woman for Valentine's Day, I'm sure she would love for you to give her something where y'all two can spend time together talking about your relationship. And no better opportunity to do it with a whole weekend series of how to connect and how to love each other, because Black people, we need to know how to love each other. But anyway, I'm done. I want to welcome, I want to start with Carlos with the K. That's the best way. I love that. I just want to thank you for coming on. This is my first time meeting you, and I just love talking to you. I want to start with you. I'd like for you today's topic is breaking barriers, men, vulnerability, and the journey to intimacy. That's our topic for today. Carlos, tell us some thoughts and insights in relation to this topic, please.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Alicia, for having me and the invitation that was extended. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking about all things mental health and just wellness in general. That's become a part of my livelihood. So thank you so much for the invitation. As far as the idea of breaking barriers, men and vulnerability, and the journey to intimacy, I think when we talk about this idea of vulnerability, just that term in and of itself, one person I think about is the vulnerability guru, I would say, is Miss Brene Brown. And she talks about the courage to be vulnerable, but how that process first starts with ourselves and really kind of diving into our own transparency with self. So before I can be in relationship with other people, what is my journey with my relationship to myself? And that takes a lot of unraveling for a lot of men. I think we come into the world with certain kind of presuppositions that we're given from other men, from our context, from our family. And there's just like a script that I think a lot of men exist with when it comes to what they're comfortable talking about and they're comfortable exploring. And it just takes a little bit of digging deep. And there are some men that are actually very emotionally intelligent. So I don't want to paint with a broad brush and say that all men are not tapped into their emotions. But by and large, I think as a cultural narrative, most of us aren't given the freedom and the I guess the model for how to be vulnerable without some fear of rejection or ridicule or criticism or something of that nature. And so exploring ourselves becomes more difficult in that process.
I really like what you're saying, because I'm thinking about what little boys are told when they're playing outside and they come back and they're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give them a hug. You're supposed to give them a hug and tell them, yes, you are hurt. Let's bandage you up. You're supposed to meet little boys, because they're children. Meet them with that love, care, and attention. And how sometimes we're given that messages where we'll say, man up, man up. Stick your chest out. Go on out there and take them. And I'm thinking about youth sports. I'm thinking about all of these things where very young age, they're given these messages that it's not okay to even be hurt or to even acknowledge that you're hurt. You have to man up and tough through it. How can you be transparent and be yourself when you're in your most vulnerable state and no one's letting you express all of that? So yeah, they do get these messages, and it's reflective of our society, and it's reflective of what men were told and saying to other people. So I really love that. And I love Brene Brown because she's a social worker like myself. So I'm partial to her. She does a wonderful series on, oh my God, on authenticity and being transparent and being vulnerable. It's so tough to be. So Joe, what's happening? He's the Fly Nubian king over here. Coming in here.
Right.
I miss you, Joe. I haven't been on with you in a while. I miss talking to you. I need you back on with me. Come back on the day I'm there. But yeah, what do you think about this emotional vulnerability that's often seen as a weakness in men? And how can we start to change some of that perception?
Well, it starts with community first. Like, if you have a large amount of brothers that are coming to the space and learning how to be vulnerable and taking away some of the shame that comes with being vulnerable and, making it, so erasing the taboo and the stigma around it, then, you can, you're going to have more healthy and whole individuals. And, for me, I'm always telling people like, this is who you truly and genuinely are, and this is the mask that you're wearing, and you're pretending to be someone you're not. And the further apart these two individuals get, the more room for depression, anxiety, and all the things. Depression and anxiety, usually for us, showing up as anger, when really we're just, most times afraid or sad, and unable to process those emotions and communicate those emotions. So, with authenticity, and you're bringing these two things closer together, you are dissipating the shame around, showing vulnerability, and it does not looked at or viewed as a weakness. If you are, confident in your masculinity, then you really can't be shamed. So that's what that's the message that I know myself and Carlos and brothers like us are constantly pushing out. Like, you cannot be ashamed, or you can't be shamed by someone if you are confident and understanding of who you are. Everything that comes with us came from somewhere, usually somewhere early in our childhood. We have developed these emotional triggers, and they have gone unaddressed for so long. And when something comes about that triggers, so to speak, triggers us, then, like I said, it shows out as anger. But as we're for myself specifically, as I understood more about what those emotional triggers are and what they were rooted in, they started to dissipate, and the anger goes away. And so it's okay for me to say, hey, I'm sad today, or, I'm afraid today. And I can communicate that with the people in my life that matter.
Oh, I like this. What you're saying is that a community
Right.
of men who get together and they're modeling for each other, led by real men, modeling for each other what it means to be yourself versus your mask,
Right.
and making sure that, okay, you do have to have some sort of a mask, but you want to make sure that the mask is totally reflective of who you really are on the inside, keeping this close together. But when that mask and who you really are starts separating, that's when you start to lose it a little bit. You start to have all of this mental illness steps in because you're not being your true authentic self. That is really interesting. And then you're walking around, you're not understanding how to deal with some of this. And then you start to have all these feelings. But what's been shown to men as acceptable is anger. Anger has been the most acceptable way to express yourself, when really you're feeling all sorts of feelings in there. Yeah. And when you're walking around angry, how you going to connect with people? How you going to connect with your significant other? How you going to connect with your children? How you going to connect and have really good pro-social behaviors and pro-social experiences with this disconnection? And it's funny to see men when they finally let down their guard and they start addressing their triggers, how more full they become and not so insecure. Oh my goodness. Carlos, weigh in on this. This is really interesting.
Yeah, I love everything that's been said. I thought of talking about the dissonance, or just the distance between the authentic self and then this. I think of the mask as more so the roles that we have to play, or the roles that we think that we have to play. So the narratives that we tell ourselves of how we should show up in the world, what is, as you mentioned, acceptable behavior for us. And I also feel like it's not even just that. I'm gonna kind of dig a little bit. It's not even just the fact that men have been taught this to other men, but I would say that there are some expectations from women as well, that men should show up with a certain type of bravado and strength and toughness that some women have taken. I've even seen this in my own practice. Some women have taken advantage of when a man is willing and wanting to let that guard down. That's looked at as being weak or less than, and not earning or yearning for more respect from her.
So what do we do with that? If you're coming across men, I mean, it's definitely once a man, because this is interesting. So what you're saying is that when men are becoming healthy, because I think when the mask is together and it's more of your authentic self, that means you're really healthy. When men become healthy, there are some women that don't even want any piece of that, that healthiness. How do you deal with that?
And healthy in the sense of, like, if I share with you how I really feel about certain things, will you be able to accept me and handle me for what is really true to me? Or do you want me to continue to play the role that you have placed me in, or that I have kind of allowed society to put me in? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. So what do you say? What do men do? All you men out here, y'all let me know in the chat. Do I got some men in here? I got Dennis. Dennis is talking about the mask we wear. Yes, I think that's a typo. I'm sure it's a mask. Dennis, weigh in. Men in the chat, y'all weigh in. Do you feel this pressure from us as women? I'm here listening. I'm actually taking notes. I got a whole page full of notes. I'm taking notes here. Is it like, do you get this from us, that we feel more comfortable with you being in this masculine Old Spice man role? Are you feeling that when you're vulnerable, you have women around you that can handle all of that? Like, what advice? Give me some advice. I want some from the chat. Jesse's talking about it's a lot of pressure. Tell me about the pressure. They do feel pressure. Okay, Wayne Solomon and Jesse McDaniel is talking about how they feel pressure. And Chris is talking about the Old Spice men. Okay, here I am, ladies, we gotta listen up. Okay, any one of y'all can go.
What I'm just thinking of is like, you know, before we get to that part, I want to just say like the roles would be, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner, the provider, the protector, and then when I get some of these roles in place and I'm getting your attention for those things that, you know, you want from me, I don't know if I have the freedom to do anything else or be anything else. It's where a lot of men, they're in that space. So it's like, once I check those boxes, what else do you need? Oh, and also I got to be good in bed too, right? So like all of that is a part of the process. What else is there that shapes me or that I can be open about? I mean, Joe, is that accurate?
Yeah, if I don't check these boxes, then I absolutely have no value.
No value.
And it becomes pressure to perform, because a lot of times it often feels like more people, you know, the outside world is more concerned with our output and our production than they are with our emotions and our vulnerability.
Correct.
You know, hey, yes, the world is tough on you, black men. I understand, but you still have to go out and you got to suck that up, and you got to go out and perform. You got to go out and perform. And I can't be concerned with how I'm telling you to go out and perform either. You know, you just have to go out and perform. And I don't have the time or the sensitivity to massage your emotions to prop you up all the time, because then you may, and this is just for some women, not all women, you may become a burden to me, or I'm going to present you as a burden. And then, you know, if you happen to just deal with one of those women and you get on to the next woman who is emotionally intelligent, has that understanding, you've already locked in your mind that if you show up with any vulnerabilities or any hurt, then you are a burden. So you have closed yourself off emotionally and made yourself unavailable to this woman who is willing to accept your vulnerability. And you have to be taught again that this is a safe space for you to be vulnerable. All the things, you know. So, in answering your question, what do we do as men? I would say what we do as men, we trade the mask in for a fence. You know, the fence, and we can consider that fence a boundary. So, you know, understanding your vulnerabilities and also your boundaries, what you're willing to put up with, what you're not willing to put up with, the things that bother you and hurt you, and you're willing to accept and not. You have to know and understand these things and then communicate them with whoever. And my understanding is, for most women, is most emotionally whole women appreciate that a lot more than you just you know, hiding and pretending to be something that you're not. Wearing that, take that mask off and put up that gate, and then, you know, decide if you want to cross into this space where I'm emotionally vulnerable. You have to accept with some of my boundaries, or at least be able to negotiate, so that we can exist in the same space.
Yeah, that's so good, man.
Oh my God. I mean, this is really something. It really pains me to hear that men are coming, and I'm seeing this in the chat, by the way, that men are coming across women like this. Like, this is painful for me to hear this, because I'm listening to women and women are saying, this dude is hurting my feelings. And when I tell them that my feelings are hurt, they looking at me like, you're complaining that I hurt your feelings. That's disrespectful. I didn't pay the bills. You got clothes on your back. You got a roof over your head. What else do you want from me? Leave me alone, woman, and let me watch the game. Like, these are the things these are the complaints that I'm hearing from women. And I don't like that either. Like, what is going on with these men who are just saying, what else do you want from me now? You know, and I don't like that. You know, I don't know. I'm teasing all of this stuff out, you know, in my office space, about trying to get down to where, of course, you know, childhood wounds. Someone mentioned trauma. You know, I'm teasing a lot of this out. A lot of it is based on some really uncomfortable, unprocessed feelings and experiences. But this is what I'm getting from a lot of women who are complaining too. So it's complaints going all over the place.
Yeah.
And we're not spending enough time getting down to the fact that really it is all about vulnerability is necessary for intimacy. And I see so many men and women, especially men, when they got an abundance of women out there, because y'all men be having choices, right? But at the same time, these men with all these choices are still lonely. They're still searching for intimacy and they're still not quite getting it. I don't know. Any one of you all can take it from here.
I wanted to say about what you're coming with, the women that have come into your office. What I have heard from, and I've worked with couples and men, individually, I think sometimes what is presented to them isn't just, well, that's just the way I feel from the woman. It's they take it in as criticism of them. So I'm doing all these things, and then when you come to me with something else, it's like another indictment on what I'm not doing right as the man, and I'd rather check out and not hear it and kind of stonewall and separate myself emotionally from tuning into what you're sharing. That's kind of what I've seen is like a lot of times it comes back to them as you not doing enough. I feel that you're not doing enough. And therefore they may interpret that as I am not enough for you because I'm not doing these things or I'm not this. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because that makes perfect sense. They forget that, yes, I appreciate you, and yes, I have a lot of gratitude for everything that you've done, but I want to know who you are. And I want us to be able to do some of these other things together so that I can feel safe and secure emotionally. It's not just protection physically and providing and, how much money is in your checking account. It really is. I want closeness. I don't want to be lonely in this nice big old house that you have. Like, I really want that. And I think sometimes men hear that and they're not understanding that, yes, women do appreciate you a lot of times, but they also want these other things from you that you ain't got enough money. You can't write a check for this intimacy and this closeness. You can't write a check for it.
Right.
If only you could, you would.
Right.
Oh, Joe, what you gonna say to that?
I want to say, a lot of times with, tomorrow night on Vulnerability is the New Sexy, we're going to try to have a very nuanced conversation about some of these gender wars, and we're going to talk about, how I'm going to try to talk about how the marriage or any relationship is a system. And the problem with, people going into these systems, we got women that blame men for things, we got men that blame women for things, but understand that any part of a system, if it's malfunctioning, the whole thing is broken. So we have to know and understand what the other purpose, what the other partner's purpose is inside of that system. And like I said, negotiate and talk about these things so that the whole thing can function the way it's supposed to function. And a lot of people are going into relationships without having these conversations, obviously, because a lot of us haven't been taught how to have these conversations. And, I know that, a lot of us grow up not seeing what these healthy relationships could be like. And then we all come into relationships with our own emotional triggers. And I think it's very important to understand your partner's emotional triggers so you don't step on them. And that's just part of a system. You may think something is not important or not a big deal, but you don't have the same lived experience as your partner. So you are minimizing and invalidating their experience by not taking the time to understand, where this trigger came from, how it developed in them, and how it's grown over time. Most times you're going into a marriage, you're marrying an adult. So this is somebody that's lived with these lived with these emotional triggers for an extended period of time. And if most, like I said, most couples that I see, I don't know about you, Carlos, most couples that I see, they haven't done or dealt with, their own individual emotional triggers. They just know that their partner keeps stepping on them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Off. So it's there's a lot of communication that needs to go in. It's a system, guys. let's stop blaming the men. Let's stop blaming the women.
Yes.
And let's
Yeah.
start talking about you as an individual and the things that bother you, and give your partner the choice to decide whether or not they want to respect those boundaries and emotional triggers.
Oh
Can
my
I add-
goodness.
Can I add
Go
on?
ahead, Carlos.
I was
Mhm.
going to add on to that. I 100% agree. I think what I hear is unmet expectations and miscommunication in that process. A lot of what I see with couples and working with men as well is that it's just like we don't know how to communicate our expectations, and that healthy dialogue really has to be, as you've said, Joe, systematic. And I always say, I believe in abundance of communication. When I talk to clients, an abundance of communication. Do not assume the other person knows.
Thank
Do
you.
not assume the other person gets it or understands. We have to really like break all of that stuff down. But honestly, to understand your expectations also requires you to go explore your own narrative. As Joe mentioned about, you come to the relationship with all this stuff. I spend time with individuals, couples, all the things, right? Kind of walking through and unraveling the narrative, going back down the line of where this first started to present itself and pop up during the course of your life and your life experiences, to see why that became that trigger, why that became that landmine for you in your life. And just seeing that plain as day, sometimes they're like, oh, I never saw it that way. They start putting those two things together, and they can see, because for change to happen, the awareness has to be first, the thing that they notice, right? Awareness of what is the issue. Then they can begin that process of change. But they got to come to some level of awareness. We call that contemplation in addictions therapy. So yeah, I just think it's unmet expectations and miscommunication, along with not understanding your narrative.
Woo, my goodness. Okay, I want to comment on Joe and Carlos. I got words to say to you all, but before I do that, hey everybody, how y'all doing? Y'all listening to this? I want you to like and share this. Women, Deborah, I want you to share this to all your men that you know. Take the link and share it right now to all the men. Ladies, share this with all the men. And I think ladies need to hear this too. Y'all need to share this. Share today's video. Please share it with people. And I just want to remind you guys, don't y'all like what Joe and Carlos is talking about? Oh my goodness. So they're going to be with me at the Black Love Weekend. Go to the blackloveweekend.com and sign up. It is Valentine's Day weekend. It is Saturday, February 15th. And Sunday, February 16th in the morning, in the day. If you're VIP, you get the recordings. And if you're trying to figure out what to get your significant other, what to get your son, your son is dating somebody, what to get your son for Valentine's Day. We got birthdays coming up. All of this is $99 for general admission. And then you could just upgrade for little or nothing for VIP. And then you can have the ear. You'll have Joe and Carlos will be able to talk to you in the men's group. Hey, Jesse, sign up. Jesse, it's your birthday. So what a great birthday gift for yourself, Jesse. I want to see you in there. You get to talk to Joe and Carlos and get to listen. You get to share. It is going to be a safe space to be vulnerable. Hello. So come on in. We want to see. Jesse's going to sign up for sure. So we're going to be in there. And so that's what I just want to remind you all. And of course, to know when I go live on YouTube, who knows when I go live on Facebook, YouTube, and some other places, you can text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. And then we'll send out a message and make sure you're well connected. So the Black Love Weekend, be sure to go there and sign up. And okay, so today the title of our presentation today is Breaking Barriers, Men, Vulnerability, and the Journey to Intimacy. And boy, oh boy, Joe, okay, you were talking about stop the blaming. Everybody stop. Listen, any problems y'all got in your relationship, stop pointing the finger. Do not point the finger. there's enough blame to go around, and you could take accountability for your part of the problem. And it's not always 50-50, I find, with a lot of my couples. Sometimes I do find one person being really belligerent toward the other person. And so my work is to try to empower the person on the receiving end of this to speak up some more, and then have the other person kind of deal with this. So it's not always 50-50, but there's something to be said. What I'm finding with accountability, and it's not always men, but I will say 9 times out of 10, it's usually the man. And sometimes I have found women. Sometimes for men to be able to open up and accept that they did something wrong is so debilitating to them. They just fall apart altogether. It's like they can't separate what they did from themselves. So they think that if they are to blame in any way, that they are a bad person. And I have to spend time saying, listen, your behavior, you are better than this, but your behavior was very insulting. You violated this person. You broke the trust in a lot of ways. You have to be accountable. And I just want to follow up, just make a comment about how difficult it is for some people, not necessarily men, but that happens, where it's difficult for some people to say they're sorry, for some people to show accountability without going into a deep level of depression because they think, oh my goodness, there's something wrong with me, not something wrong with my behavior. And so that's my question to you, Joe. What do you have to say to that?
I can't argue that much with you, honestly. In my experience in couples counseling, if you continuously bring blame to the man, he is eventually going to blow up a lot of the times.
Yeah.
That's the experience that I have, and Carlos might have a different perspective, but men do not go into therapy to be told that they're doing something wrong. Most times they have entered the space because they already have understood that they're doing something wrong, and they want to know how to change their behavior and get on the road to redemption and move past it. So if we spend too much time, and this is my experience with the woman, not all the time, but some of the time, she wants to spend a lot of time dealing with the hurt and not exactly ready to move past the pain. I always liken it to, a woman sleeping soundly in her home, and then, in the middle of the night, there's a home invasion, and people come in and they break the windows and set things on fire. And then, the police and the fire department are called, and you're standing outside, and everybody, and the fire gets put out, and the burglars are arrested, and you tell the woman, go back in there and sleep peacefully.
Yes.
We haven't changed the security system. We haven't replaced the windows, changed the locks, or nothing. But you expect her to go back inside after you have, basically taken away her safety or her feeling of safety. And, brother, it just doesn't work like that.
Ooh.
We're not here.
I love that scenario because it's almost like she got PTSD. You have to deal with some of her things here.
You have to change the locks. You have to get updated security system. You have to maybe even move. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you need to do in order for that woman to feel secure in that space again. And same thing for the men. But so basically what I'm saying is that I want you to come into the space not to be blamed, but to just understand your woman's feelings and validate them. I got you. I'm not going to let this turn into a blame session for you. I'm not going to do that. But you're going to have to validate your wife's feelings or your girlfriend's feelings, and you're going to have to take some accountability for it. And then we're going to understand why this behavior showed up with you in the first place, and and then we're going to address it. And then, because I'm almost positive that the man is not 100% to blame for him showing up.
Well,
you know what I mean? So it's all about perspectives, man. You just have to be willing to learn and validate each other.
Oh, that is so true. And you're right. It's a signal. The house burning on fire is a signal of, okay, something wasn't right in that house to begin with. There was faulty wiring There was something that was going on that needed to be addressed. And on the other side of this whole thing, it really could be a very nice, beautiful relationship. But it really is, you really do have to tease through that. And usually what I tell people is just like, is it worth it losing her? Are you willing to lose her? Are you willing to break away? Because if you really want this, you're going to have to dig in. So I use whatever I can as leverage. You want your children to see you on the weekends? What do you want? Because that's where we're going if we don't address this and come to terms with all of this. So thank you, Joe. Okay, now Carlos, I want to ask you a question because you mentioned miscommunication and healthy dialogue, which thank you for that. That was a beautiful thing. And in what I'm finding too, and I do find this with men, and I don't know, listen, women, we got our own set of problems that we bring to relationships. But I'm finding this sometimes with men too, where growing up, I'm finding that men who aren't comfortable or weren't encouraged to talk about what they want growing up, communicating what they need, because hello, as women, and Deborah, you can put this in the chat if you want to, like, I can't read your mind. I don't know. I'm trying to be psychic. I would love to be clairvoyant, but I'm not clairvoyant. Like, if you don't tell me what's going on, I'm going to assume everything is okay. Right. And so I'm finding that sometimes it's hard to get men to like finally open up and say, let her know what you want from her, open up. And partly is that they're just not encouraged all the time to open up. And sometimes it's scary because if you start opening up and you start asking for what you want, that's even more frightening. It's easier to just not say it at all, because if you ask for what you want, so much anxiety comes over men where they're just like, okay, is this person going to give it to me? Because if they ain't, why did I just make myself vulnerable asking for what I want? And I'm sitting here waiting on it to happen. So it's so difficult. And you brought up just wonderful point there. Can you expand on that?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it really is a thing that I've seen a lot with a lot of the men that I work with, that finding that voice, like ownership of that space. And I use terms like advocate for what you need, advocate for what you want. It's self-advocacy, right? Showing up in that way. And when it's in reference to couples, I spend time trying to kind of teach them good rapport building communication skills using what we call I feel statements, or when this happened, I felt this way about how so-and-so went down, and et cetera, et cetera. Another thing is, just before we get into the communication of what it is that we want, I've spent a lot of time with men and just learning how to tune in to the body. Emotional attunement, body attunement. Let's sit with ourselves for a minute. What's coming up for you in this moment? When this comes across your mind, when that comes across, what are you feeling? Again, as I said at the beginning, once I understand that relationship with myself, then it's much easier to begin to communicate those things. But if I'm not even really aware how to, like, that level of self-awareness does take a little bit of practice. Again, as you mentioned, with not being taught how to do that or not being encouraged to do that. And so therapy can be a wonderful tool to learn how to just sit with yourself. Yeah, I enjoy doing emotional attunement, body attunement work. And really, it sounds lofty, but it's literally just, we're going to sit here for 5 to 10 minutes. I want you to just tap into your breath right now, like a little mini meditation period. I want you to notice your body, what you feel, any tension, any tingling, any weird sensations, getting in touch with that part of yourself. And not even surprisingly, but it's just cool to see how, when I do that, they're able to be like, I do feel this, and I'm sensing this, and this is what's on my heart, or this is what's in my shoulders. I feel this emotion in the back of my neck. Just all of that starts to stir up because they finally gave their body a chance to speak up. They start to tune into what their body has been trying to tell them. So when it comes to when she, as if they're in a relationship, if she like says something in a certain tone of voice, yes, right, a snide, remark, or when this is going on with the kids, or what happened at work today, things become compounded, and then I'm able to kind of offload those things, maybe write my thoughts down before I go into that conversation, you know, be able to kind of systematically look through what it is that I'm feeling in that moment, and then broach that conversation when you feel it's safe, when you feel it's appropriate, you have their ear to begin having those conversations with your significant other. But it first starts with just that attunement to self, I believe.
And it really means that you have to break away and take some time for self-care. Self-care is self-love. And get into a mindful place. I'm starting to, and I've always felt this way, but I'm starting to really believe that mindfulness is the answer.
I'm on that wave. I've been on that wave for a little while in my practice. In fact, if I wasn't on that wave, I don't think I would be a therapist, because I had to coach my own body back to wellness. I went to, I'm just be honest, I went to the hospital. I went to a neurologist. I went to therapy. And it wasn't until I really just began to be okay with just sitting in whatever the discomfort was that the healing process started to happen for me. And so that's my wave. Like, we talking about mindfulness, breath work, somatic experiencing. That's the wave.
Let me tell you, and we don't even need to talk about plant medicine and all sorts of stuff. I'd be dabbling and all that stuff, but I need it. I mean, as therapists, we need it because I think we just hold on to so much. You know, we absorb. I really have to have a daily peaceful meditation every single day, twice a day, to just do this type of work. We're healers. We are healers. We are. And I have to go away for the weekend just to sit and meditate and have my plant ceremony and my Native American chants and all of that happening.
Yeah, love it.
In order to like totally release it so that I can do the work that I'm here to do as a healer. You know, go ahead.
Add on to that, like, let's make it practical, right? So if there are men out there that are not actively engaged in therapy right now, or if you don't have time to go on a solitude retreat and do all these extra things, I'm simply saying, first thing in the morning, can you just sit up in your bed and just take a few deep breaths? Can you just pause before we get the day started? Before we look at the phone, laptop, all the things, you can start a mindfulness practice just by taking a pause. It don't have to be this lofty, you know, we're in the Himalayas, you know what I'm saying, in our nice
Costa Rica, Chile.
No,
5 minutes of silence, man. Just
5 minutes of silence, and just begin to tune into that. That clarity that comes from the inside of you, and then you're able to move differently, so that when things come into your awareness, into your space, you'll know, like, I'm feeling some dissonance right there, some incongruence with me right now. I need to speak up on this. I need to advocate for what I need. And the words don't always have to be perfect. It just has to be honest and just speak from the heart, right? You don't have to be rude about it. Like, I'm feeling this way right now.
That's right.
You know, I will say my husband meditates almost every day. He does a lot of quiet meditation, and it really, that's what I liked about him. I'm like, you meditating too. Both of us are meditating, but he meditates all the time, and he's always in a meditative place. But when he finally opens up his mouth and starts talking, it's the most profound thing that you ever want to hear. I'm just like, all right, you done blown me away today. I'm done with you. I'm done with you, you know. But it's a whole, we're just crazy and unique anyway. how we are anyway. Y'all don't be listening to us. We crazy. We unique. There is no other relationship I've ever seen quite like the one I'm in now, but it's very, very unique. But it's something being married to somebody who is so meditative and very powerful person. And so it just there's something to it. But I think that you get to that point when you meditate, it's like that sort of piece. If you don't get to meditate, you're going to be like, I gotta meditate. I can't do nothing else unless I meditate. You'll start to lean on it and know that you need to do that. You start to understand, hey, before we make a decision, let's sleep on it. You start to trust. And what I find, I think this conversation is going another direction, but what I find is that the more you lean on meditation, the more you start to get in tune with what's going on, and having that as a way of showing gratitude, expressing gratitude, but also making decisions mindfully, that the more you practice it, the more it comes to you, the more you're strengthening a muscle in your body. Absolutely. Where it's just like, I have to meditate on this because I trust myself more than anything, and I can move forward in myself. Joe, you want to come in?
Yeah, no, we're not, you're not taking a conversation. It's the same conversation, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of men need to understand what Carlos is saying about, starting your day, with in a different way, like in a meditative state, and practicing self-care and mindfulness. Because a lot of what we're feeding our mind in the morning, I don't know the percentages, but I would say a large percentage of people reach for that phone in the morning, and they start feeding their mind with the outside world, and the outside world is a comparative place.
Grind.
Right. Is past the negativity and all the other things that you're going to put in, you're going to start comparing yourself. A lot of what you're seeing on social media, and that's making you feel inadequate and adding more pressure to, what you're trying to accomplish or who you're trying to be. And as a man, when you don't feel adequate, you find the most unhealthy ways to feel masculine that you could possibly find. And that's when you find yourself getting in trouble, man. You look for the situation that's going to make you feel like a man, or make you feel like you're in charge or something. And that's when, you're doing damage to your life. It's those unhealthy behaviors. But if you start your day, in quiet and in peace and meditation, you'll find that you can focus more on what it is you're actually trying to be. Like, you're not going to make decisions that go against the person or the man that you say you are. Because most times when you make those decisions that, those bad decisions that make you feel more like a man, more masculine, depending on the kind of man you are, you usually hate yourself for it, or you feel worse about yourself. And then you're just making the real situation, the authentic situation, worse. And then you're separating these two things, and then you're going to find yourself depressed, anxious, or less than, because ultimately, if you are a certain kind of man, treating your woman poorly will make you feel more or less like a man than anything.
Treating your woman poorly is going to make you feel less like a man
than almost anything.
I love it. Yes. Let's say, ladies, come on. you feel that one. Yeah, because Kenneth is talking about, I put his comment up here because he's like, what's the first step to begin meditation? I have never meditated. I think meditation is the simplest. It's easy, but maybe not that simple. What do you say?
If you can't figure it out, go into your Apple Music, type in, or YouTube, type in guided meditation, and just, it'll tell you it's more, you're focusing more on your breathing, pushing out your thoughts. And it's really crazy that if you start focusing on your breathing, how you're concentrating on that, and sometimes some outside thoughts will come in, and you just gently push them out, you know what I mean? And just kind of focus on, being in the present. So it's really easy, man. There's all types of guided meditations out there.
Yeah. Netflix has a whole series on them.
Yeah, right. Go to Netflix. Go to Netflix, Apple Music, YouTube, whatever, man. Just go, find guided meditation. You can learn just simply how to sit with yourself and push those thoughts out of your mind, and kind of start your day off focusing on really what's important to you.
And can I add on to that, Joe?
Go ahead.
When I think about, we talked about narrative a little earlier. When I think about narrative, technically we are, when we're, obviously developing and coming up as children in the world, we're inheriting stories from our family, from our ancestors. There's just a lot of things that are just kind of downloaded into our DNA, into our bodies, that help define and shape who we are. And I look at meditation as an opportunity to detach from those parts of our story and our narrative and our existence that no longer serve us. And the things that do serve us, obviously we can take those in and continue to cultivate that. But all of that other stuff, all that noise that's in our head that he mentioned, from the cell phone, from television, from mom and them, from daddy and them, from grandma and them, that just no longer serves us. I'm pushing that out as I take in these deep breaths, and I'm exhaling, right? I'm inhaling who I want to be, and I'm exhaling out what no longer serves me in this moment, to be grounded in this present moment and becoming a detached observer of my own life experiences. But our lives are just dictated by all these stories and these scripts all of the time. And meditation is an opportunity to see ourselves separate from that. Over time, it's just the practice of, again, if it's just 5 minutes, set your timer for 5 minutes, focus on inhaling deeply through the nose, exhaling through the mouth as if you're blowing through a straw, or blowing into a leaky tire or something like that, and just focus on that repetitive motion over and over again.
I really do believe that we all have in us the natural desire for health.
Yes.
And healing.
Yes.
And if we really tune into that in ourselves, it will immediately emerge. It can't help. And detachment is how you really get in touch with that. You're detaching from all these things that don't mean nothing anyway. And really getting into what's important. Every decision that you make. And really, my goal is to have every waking hour a meditation, a ceremony. I take the ceremony with me everywhere I go. May everything I say be part of this whole detached ceremony, to be in it but not of it, of course, because we got some real life problems can kick you into what.
Right.
Easy to detach and to be all meditative, but then as soon as somebody say something to you and you get all triggered, you start going back. You be like, leave me alone. And no one can do it to you like your significant other.
Yeah. Right.
You'll be coming back. I know my kids do it to me. I'll be coming back. I'll be so meditative. Then they say something, I'll be like, get out of here. We want to go. But this is where mindfulness has to come in place. But this is life just happens to us. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. And we're like beyond the top of the hour. And I promised that I would only have these gentlemen in here for the top of the hour. But listen, hey everybody. I am Dr. Alicia, and this is Mental Health Monday. And today we talked about breaking barriers, men, vulnerability, and the journey to intimacy. Let me tell you something. Joe and Carlos here have dropped a whole lot of wisdom. They are male therapists, and they represent manhood. This is what manhood is about. We have a lot of examples of toxic masculinity, but not here. Here we got what real manhood is about, and it's not about whiteness. It's about who and what we really are. Thank you very much. It's not about whiteness. I don't even want to get political on us today, but you know what I mean. But I just want to say that this is beautiful. And these two gentlemen are going to be joining me for the Black Love Weekend, but they're only available for the VIPs. And I got a special going on right now. If you go to theblackloveweekend.com, you'll be able to further this conversation. They're doing a men's group. So Chris, the men's group, join us. I feel if you wake up on the side of a woman in the morning and you see the real her, and you don't jump up and run out the room, I feel like you're going to be that woman for a long time. Chris, you are hilarious. I love that comment.
That is not the parameter we're using, Chris.
Let me tell you, I just randomly picked the comment. I thought, waking up with a woman. Anyway, Chris, you join, because these two men will put you in your place with these comments.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you too for being here. Y'all make sure you go to theblackloveweekend.com. It's $99 right now. This is the early bird. It is Valentine's Day weekend. It is Saturday. During the day, y'all can do what y'all want to do at nighttime, Saturday night. But during the day, you'll be with me. I have a wonderful workshop for you guys about intimacy, about how to love each other. Black people need to learn how to love each other. We definitely know how to hate each other very well. We got that nailed down. So let's get into loving each other, figuring out how to love each other. We're going to be talking about that. On Saturday, you're going to have Joe and Carlos in the afternoon. They're going to be coming in and they'll only meeting with the VIP. So make sure you get your VIP ticket. It's digital. So, and if you're VIP, everything is going to be recorded. You'll have access to the recordings. But if you just want to drop in and say hey to everybody, you could just do the general admission. It's $99, y'all. That's not that bad. And then it could be a nice little gift for you and your boo. You and your boo, if you're trying to find a nice, beautiful gift and you're trying to like rack in your brain, you don't know what to do. Lexicon. Cuddling a woman is like a teddy bear. Okay, so these men love physical touch, by the way. I don't know what it is with y'all men and physical touch. They talking about cuddling a woman and sleeping and waking up next to a woman. This is what the comments are saying. Anyway,
physical touch is one of the easiest love language to understand for the most part. So
men love physical touch. I know my boo, he loves physical touch. So I'm like, okay, physical touch, that's good with me too. So yes, cuddling with a woman like a teddy bear is intimacy. Yes, Black Lexicon, I want to see you there. Anyway, so, okay, let's wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. Can you do this again? Patricia wants y'all back again. Listen, if you wanted to come, be sure to go to theblackloveweekend.com if you want to know when I'm live, because who knows when it's going to be these days. I'm very busy, but it's text the word love to 87948 and you'll get information from somebody be sending you information on that. But really, the best thing for you to do today is go to theblackloveweekend.com. You'll see Joe and Carlos, and then we'll end with Joe and Carlos. How about you just give us what question can I give you guys? Parting words. We need advice. These men and women in the chat need advice. What would you say to us? They're loving this physical touch thing. Men who love physical touch. And anyway, parting words. We'll start with Joe, Mr. Joe. Parting words and last thoughts about men vulnerability and the journey to intimacy. And then let everybody know how to find you, Mr. Joe.
Sure. My parting words is going to be with I'm gonna steal some words from my brother Carlos earlier when he was talking about using those I statements and whatnot. And when this happens, I feel this and I need this. When you are discussing things in terms of your own feelings, it's very difficult for someone to argue with your own feelings. I can't, if it makes you feel hurt, if it makes you feel sad, if it makes you feel disregarded, how can I argue with you feel that way? So my only perspective should be is to understand why are you feeling, instead of getting upset about the fact that you feel that way and taking it personal as to why you feel that way. Let me understand, or what am I doing or what am I saying that's making you feel so disregarded? Why is this occurring? I don't get it. Get there, and I implore you to call one of these brothers here or Dr. Alicia herself and get some help in understanding where the communication gaps are, because most of the time we're talking about two people with the same mission. You may want to run the ball left. I may want to throw the ball right, but let's agree that we both want to score a touchdown, right? We have the same goals. And if we don't have the same goals, your relationship is on a whole different situation. But in a healthy, typically loving relationship, we have the same goals. So it's illogical for us to fight, is what I'm trying to get you, basically what I'm trying to say. So start with your feelings. And you can find me, to set up any type of session or appointment at consulting.com. You can book a free consult right on there. And tomorrow night, I told you every Tuesday night, but tomorrow night we're going to have a very, very nuanced conversation about gender wars. I'm going to be very specific about how we're doing it. We're not coming to the space to argue about men versus women or anything like that. We're really trying to understand how to communicate with each other so that we can meet each other's needs. So I implore you to join me tomorrow on the Boss Network for Vulnerability is the New Sexy.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Okay, Carlos.
Yeah, I want to just say a couple of things. That first, men, please understand, or just anybody in the viewing audience, please understand that your emotions are not the enemy. We are taught to look at this separation between our emotional selves and our lived experience, but your emotions are not the enemy. In fact, your mind, your body, all of it is inextricably linked together. It's just more important for us to move in harmony with all of it in a way that becomes more intuitive. And the other piece is when it comes to vulnerability, understand that my starting point for vulnerability is not necessarily about the other person's reaction to my decision to be vulnerable, if that makes sense. It's more so about me being honest with myself, first of all, acknowledging what my true feelings are, what my true thoughts are, and my expression is, and then being willing to share that with another soul. But it can't first start with being concerned about the other person's reaction, because then we begin to people please and kind of edit ourselves based upon what we feel somebody's going to say or think or have an opinion about my true self. So just keeping that in mind, that your emotions are not the enemy. Vulnerability has to start first with an authentic acknowledgement of your truest self. And then lastly, if it just comes down to, wanting to speak with a therapist, I think a therapist is going to help you along your journey. We don't fix all of your problems. We are not here to just give you the aha advice magic potion to all of your problems. But I want to say that if you are with the right therapist, they're going to help you get the tools so that you can go run this race and do it even on your own. Just be equipped to go be that authentic man. And so if you want to journey with myself, I love to work with any of your viewing audience. If you're in the state of Texas, I'm credentialed in the state of Texas. And so I'm on the Davis Counseling Center, which is daviscounselingcenter.com. You can find my profile on Psychology Today. That's Carlos with the K. Carlos Lyons, Lyons. And then I think I'm on Instagram. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Mr.K.Lyons. Mr.K.Lyons. That's Mr.K.Lyons.
All right, I'm going to follow you on Instagram. Mr. K. Lyons on Instagram. Okay, y'all, I don't know how much I don't think people understand this is a treat. It's a treat to get black male therapists to answer my phone call when I be calling y'all. Y'all be too busy. I don't know what's going on, but I be making fun of y'all. So, okay, we learned a lot today. I've been taking notes. I statements. Make some I statements when you talk about how you feel. Just say, when this happens, I feel this way. Get a community. Y'all men out here, it is so important to have a community of which you can take off that mask and be your authentic self. Understand your triggers. Understand how to deal with anger. Anger is sanctioned emotion for men. And there's probably a lot of other feelings that you have. We also talked about how sometimes us women, ladies, we be putting pressure on men to be the breadwinner, provider, protector. We put a lot of pressure, and then we want them to be good in bed at night. Then we want them to share all their feelings. We be putting a lot of pressure on men. We need to stop and think about that. We put a lot of pressure. All of these roles that they have to play. We got to take accountability. Stop blaming each other. Take accountability. We got to get into Brené Brown. Y'all look at her up. She's a fellow social worker. She's talking about being your authentic self, transparency, being honest with yourself. Hello. Then we talked about how to communicate. Sometimes we mistalk. We miscommunicate. We need to have this healthy dialogue. And we need to advocate for yourself. And if you're having problems with that, you got 3 people right here. I'm licensed. All of us are licensed there. And by the way, to be licensed is very important. That means that protects the public. The license don't do nothing for me. The license protects you. That means I have to be on top of evidence-based practice. That means every word that come out of my mouth, a lot of it is my opinion, but most of it is evidence-based, or why am I saying it? So anyway, That's the thing. That's my public service announcement, because there's a whole lot of armchair therapists to be saying, have that stuff. Do y'all know 80% of these armchair therapists have that stuff be wrong? I feel like this is wrong, just bad advice on the internet. This is information that you can trust. And if you want more of this, go to theblackloveweekend.com. Support us. Support me. Support all of us. All these good things that are happening. Theblackloveweekend.com. And of course, if you want to work with me, you very well can. I am got a lot of good practice. You can follow me on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. And of course, you can come to my website, there it is down there, coachingwithdralicia.com. Fill out the intake. I got to charge for consultations now, Joe. I'm at that point. Ooh. I got to charge. It's only $20 for consultations, but I have to, because I'll tell you off air why I have to charge people. But anyway, people just no, I'm not relaying a message to my husband. If you want to talk to him, so you can get a hold of him on your own. I'm trying to talk to my own husband. Don't send no messages through me to talk to him. But anyway,
I get it.
Boy, oh boy. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alfonso. Thank you, Wayne. I see y'all in here. I see some people have signed up. I don't even want to call y'all out, but I really appreciate you. Look at all the men in here. Black Lexicon. I feel like that's a man energy right there. Raymond. Come on. Walter, Ella. I guess that's a lady named after her father, probably. We got Wayne. We got all these men in here. Lots of men's in here. So I appreciate y'all for coming in here. And thank you, Joe and Carlos, for joining me. We're going to have some fun Valentine's Day weekend. So bye, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I wanted to come in for a minute because I really had something I wanted to talk about involving this really interesting conversation between Pastor Jamal Bryant and the one and only Cam Newton. These are two brothers that I do respect. You know, they've accomplished a lot in their respective fields. Cam was one of the best quarterbacks I ever saw. Jamal is a guy that I spent some time talking to when I went to Ghana. I saw Jamal in Ghana, and I would say I consider him a friend. I don't know if he'll think of me in the same way after I finish this conversation, but my goal is to be honest. So I saw a little clip of an interview where Jamal was basically speaking to Cam, and they were talking about black-on-black crime, which is something that I'm very sensitive to. Is something that many of us have been affected by. It's something that has really hit our communities hard. I live in Chicago, and if you know anything about Chicago, there's a reason they call Chicago Chirac. And my sister was actually she actually did autopsies in Chicago, and she would talk about all the young brothers and sisters that are just dying in the streets like crazy. And it's almost like par for the course. It's almost like it's just something that's to be expected. It's just something that we just kind of think is supposed to happen to Black people because you're Black. And so anyway, I saw this clip, and I'm gonna play this clip. But first off, I want to ask you all, give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me. Let me know you can hear me okay. Give me a quick yes and hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify and look up Boyce Watkins or the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, you can find me on Spotify. So let me know if you can hear me as I pull up this clip. I'm going to share my screen real quick and play this from the brothers. It just, I ain't gonna lie, it really kind of got to me a little bit, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. But let me make sure I am sharing the audio properly and all that stuff. I don't even know. You know what? I hope it shares. Okay, let me see if I can make sure I share this audio properly, because I don't want to mess this up. You know what? I'm not going to share the audio just yet. I'm going to pull the video up in a different way. But I'll tell you what they said as I get the video loaded and ready for you. Basically, they were talking about black-on-black crime, and Cam made an interesting point where he said it took a white man to tell me that when a Black man kills a Black man, nobody really says anything. But when a white man kills a Black man, there's a riot. And then Jamal goes into a response that is, he's a very eloquent, very intelligent man, a very good speaker. But just because it sounds good don't mean it's accurate. And so he pretty much seemed to imply that just the whole concept of black on black crime is a myth, that literally you're just as safe living in a middle class or lower class white neighborhood as you are in a lower class black neighborhood, that a young black man has no greater probability of ending up dead than any other group of people. That black on black crime is kind of a figment of our imagination, because that's what liberals tell us. And as much as I say I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, I get people that will get mad because they feel like because I'm black, I'm supposed to go along with bullshit, and I just don't do that. I cannot do that. So let me play this clip for you. I think I have it loaded. And I just want to, actually, it's still loading, but it'll load. So the first thing I'm going to say here is, before I even play this clip, I'm going to give y'all some stats. You know, when people say black on black crime is doesn't exist, first I'm going to ask y'all this. Let me ask y'all this. How many of you know a black person that was killed by another black person? Give me a yes in the chat if you know a black person that was killed by another black person, or give me a yes or no in the chat if you think black on black crime is real. It's okay to have your opinion. I hope it's okay that we can disagree on certain areas. But I want to mention, I know my good buddy Greg Wilkins was murdered when some dope dealers ran up in his house and shot him in the head in front of his daughter. And I think that to say black on black crime is not real would be a little disingenuous, because I've never seen, I don't have any friends that where white boys ran up in their house and did that to them. Doesn't mean black men are murderers. Doesn't mean that we are worse than white people. Doesn't put them on a pedestal, but it does. It does say something. So let me play this clip, and then I'm gonna tell you why this clip just really got me going in terms of saying, come on, man. So here we go. Let me play it.
It took a white man to tell me. He says, how is it when a black man kill a black man, it's not really outrage?
Yeah.
But when a white man kills a black man, it's gonna start a riot.
The American media has manipulated the narrative of crime. Black on black crime is a made up thing. You have never heard white on white crime. Never heard the Asian on Asian crime. They have tried to fraction and compartmentalize us to feel as if where the crime is where we are.
Go ahead.
The lead murderers in America are white men. The lead robbers in America are white men. The largest amount of rapists are white men. The highest number of domestic abusers is white men. The highest number of arrested pedophiles is white men. The greatest number of drug dealers arrested is white men. But if you ask the average American who are the proponents of crime, is a black face to it. They're now trying to create this narrative that the immigrants are bringing in the crime, because they never want to own up to what it is that they have done. Part of our responsibility is to pull the sheets off. We had a shooting here in Georgia not long ago. A young man named Colt, 14 years old, went and shot up his high school. His father's now being charged. Can you imagine what conversation me and you would be having if Colt was black and Colt's black father gave him a gun? The television, the internet would explode on the irresponsibility of black fathers, on why it is that young black men have guns and are carrying guns. It has always shifted to make black men feel hyper-aggressive, hypersexual, and hyper-criminalized. It's part of a larger historic original sin of America that always criminalizes and points their fingers at black men when it's absolutely not true. The overwhelming majority, Cam, of black men who are under penal supervision are under penal supervision for nonviolent offenses. They're on ankle bracelets, home monitors, on parole, on probation, for possession, not for distribution. It may not sound like it's significant, but it's very meaningful. And so that's why it is that we've got to ask the hard and the difficult questions. Where is criminal justice in America? And is justice just us?
is that there were a lot of things that Jamal said that I think are fine, right? A lot of things he said I agree with. But there were some areas that have to be addressed if we're ever going to advance as Black people. One of the biggest problems that we have is that the Democratic Party pretty much has a slave whip cracked in our back. We pretty much, everything that we talk about has to be framed in the language that is approved by the Democratic Party masters. If you remember, during the election, Jamal brought in Kamala Harris because there was some backroom dealing, most likely, in terms of them depending on the Black preacher to deliver the vote blue no matter who kind of mindset, or vote or die kind of stuff, the stuff Diddy used to do when he was the de facto Black leader representing the Democratic Party. That's what it is, right? It's politics. Everybody has a right to be whatever political party that they want. But one thing you got to pay attention to is this. I want you to think about this, and I want you to ask yourself this question. If we're working so hard for civil rights, and if we're working so hard to build up our community, if we're working so hard to advance our people, why has there not been any progress? All right. If all this voting is supposed to be so beneficial, then why haven't we moved forward? Why is Black wealth going down? Why are Black families falling apart? Why are Black people, Black boys, and going to school still can't read? Well, a lot of it is because we get false narratives that have to be cloaked in a type of liberalism that devoids us of any accountability for our own condition. What am I talking about? Well, let's go back to what Jamal said about Black on Black crime, where he pretty much said that it's made up. Let me just be clear. Black on Black crime is not made up. It is very, very real. Does it mean white men can't be violent? Of course not. Does it mean white men don't commit most of the crimes? Of course not. But also, if you consider that the country has 8 times more white men than Black people, to just look at raw numbers is inaccurate. You can't just look at the raw number. You have to look at the proportion, right? So if you look at the proportion, and if we're 13% of the population, but we're committing 40% of a certain crime, that's 3 times more than our proportion in the population, damn near 3 times more. So stop talking about raw numbers, because it shows you don't know math. You do not know math. If you say more white people on welfare than Black people, that's fine, but I need to know the proportion. And again, maybe it's because I'm a statistician. I have a master's degree in statistics, and I'm like, yeah, but there's 1 Black person for every 8 white people. Not to put white people on a pedestal. I'm not doing that. But I'm saying we got to at least be accurate here. You can defend Black people without having to tell a lie. So let me give you some stats that'll help you understand what I'm talking about. Give me a yes or no. Let's just start with the basics right now. Start with the basics right now. Do you believe that a Black male has a higher probability of dying from a violent crime than a white male or anybody else? Do you believe that Black boys are in danger from the time they're born? Do you believe that? Do you believe that Black men have a higher probability of dying from murder, homicide in particular, than white women, Asian men, anybody else? Do you believe that? Yes or no? Because if you say no, that's another conversation. But I can point out literally 2-3 dozen dead rappers over the last couple of years, and the vast majority of them are Black. And also, when you look at all those homicides that are real, these mothers crying, it's very real. These deaths are very real. In many cases, they don't get the attention that they deserve. They don't get the George Floyd march. They don't get the outcry from the civil rights leaders. Why? Well, because they had the misfortune of being killed by a Black person. That's what it is. If you Black and you get killed by a Black person, Ben Crump is not coming to your house. I know that because I know Robin Simpson, who was stabbed 100 times in Houston. Look it up. Robin Simpson was murdered, stabbed 100 times by her husband in front of her 8-year-old daughter. We called Ben Crump. We reached out to Ben. Ben said, I ain't got time for that because she didn't get killed by a white man. He didn't say it like that, but that's what it is. If that had been a white cop who had killed her, Ben Crump would have been all over that case. No disrespect to Ben, but y'all got to know the truth. It's race hustling up in here. That's what it is. It's insanity. It's weird to me. It's weird. It's weird to me that the death of a Black man doesn't get attention if he's not killed by a white person or a cop. And maybe I take this personally because I have a best friend named Greg Wilkins in Louisville, Kentucky, who lived not too far from Breonna Taylor, and he was murdered by a Negro. And did nobody get outraged? Did nobody hold no candlelight vigils? Did nobody call the Democratic Party? Did nobody hold no protest rallies or no nothing? Well, why? Well, because it's just two black people killing each other. That's par for the course. And then I have to listen to Democratic Party operatives, and I'm sorry, Jamal, that's what you are, man. I know they put something in your pocket. That's what that, and I'm sorry, brother. Some of the stuff you do, I don't agree. I liked you when we met in Ghana. I liked the conversation. I think you're a nice guy. But Lord Jesus, man, I don't understand some of y'all black preachers. Some of them, not all of them. Some of the black preachers are not. I don't understand that. I'm like, y'all ain't working for God. Y'all working for the other guy, because some of the stuff, shenanigans that happen in your churches don't make any sense to me. With that said, let's continue. Let me give you some FBI statistics on crime. Let's resolve some of this with actual numbers. Did you know that according to this is for the Centers for Disease Control. Did you know that black males are about 50 times more likely to die from homicide than Asian males? 50 times more likely. And as much as everybody wants to tell me that it's the Trump supporters killing everybody, I'm looking for the case. Show me where they went in a black neighborhood and killed 50 or 100 black people. I really need to know that, because if that happens, then I'm definitely going to go and address that. Who do you think was killing these black males? Did y'all hear what I said? Let me know if you heard what I said. Black males, according to the Centers for Disease Control, are 50 times more likely to die from homicide than white males. Actually, let's just be specific. Black males have a 52.9 out of every 100,000 black males dies from a firearm. Asian males, it's 1.5 for every 100,000. For black females, it's 7.5 per 100,000. So black people have a higher rate regardless. For Asian females, it's about 0.5 per 100,000. Now, for whatever reason, I couldn't find the stats on white people, but I'm willing to bet you that the numbers are not nearly as high. I can tell you that those numbers are extremely high for black people. Here's another stat that you should pay attention to. So not only are black males most likely out of all groups to die from homicide, also, if you look at the FBI's data and you calculate how many white people were killed by black people, it's 566. And then you say, how many black people were killed by white people? It's 246. Now, if I give you numbers, I'm going to have people that are going to say, oh, you being an Uncle Tom. Oh, you being a sellout. If the truth makes me a sellout, then all I can say is fuck you too. Because at the end of the day, we have to at some point look at the data and really look at what's really going on in our neighborhoods and what's going on in our communities. One of the reasons that black on black crime is so rampant in cities like Chicago is because we have people in the Democratic Party in particular that are telling us that it doesn't exist. No, you didn't see that little 9-year-old girl get shot on her tricycle by some gangster. No, you didn't see that little boy making straight A's in school get killed on his way to band camp. That didn't happen. You didn't see that. What you need to look at George Floyd. Look at George Floyd. He's the guy. He might have been on fentanyl, but that don't mean that he did. Okay, whatever. Okay, so I'm sorry. When you're telling me George Floyd is Martin Luther King, anybody remember that? Where they were comparing George Floyd to Martin Luther King? I said, look, what happened to George shouldn't have happened. No question about it. But he ain't Martin Luther King. There was some stuff in his background that was pretty horrific, pretty terrible. And second of all, there are so many other cases of injustice that I wish you would look into instead of the ones that fit your narrative, instead of the ones that are convenient for you. There are men right now being raped in prison, beaten and raped and killed in prison. You're not talking about that. There are little children being shot in the city of Chicago every week. You don't talk about that. There are people like Robin Simpson in Houston who got stabbed 100 times by her husband. You don't talk about that. What you talk about are the cases that fit your narrative. Ben Crump talks about the cases that will get him paid. And this is something that I think as black people, we got to address. If you never address the truth, you're always going to live in a lie. If you never start looking at facts, then you're always going to be stuck in this goofiness. And I'm gonna tell you, I have people that don't even talk to me because I won't go along with the nonsense. But I'm a college professor. I can't live in the middle of something that just doesn't make any logical sense. And if it did work, if what you were doing was actually working, then the black community would be in a better position. It's not in a better position. It's going backward. And so what's happening is that you got these high-paid Negroes out front that are getting all this money, basically keeping you exactly where you are. And I think it's BS. It's nonsense. And so let's look at the stat again. Let's go through this again. According to the FBI's data, again, because black on black crime doesn't exist, and apparently we're all being murdered by white people or something. If you count in 2019, the number of white people murdered by black people was 566. The number of black people murdered by whites was 246. So there's like 8 times more of them than there are us. So the number of black people killed by white people should be 8 times higher than the number of black people killed by white people. If you look at proportions, for some people that's going to go over their head, but if you look at it on a proportionate standpoint, then you would find that 8 times more white people or 8 times more black people would be dead because there's 8 times more of them than us. But actually, it's the opposite. Again, white victims murdered by black offenders, 566. Black victims murdered by white offenders, 246. And the reality is that none of these numbers surprise you. None of these numbers surprise you. Because we're the only community where somehow these white and Jewish record labels are making billions of dollars getting these Negroes to get on a record and rap about how they want to murder people all day. All they do is they talk about killing black people all day. You got this Klan rap, this Klan music out here that everybody's celebrating. Jamal, I'm sorry, Jamal, you probably have some rappers up in your church, right? We look up to these people that talk about murdering black people, and then we turn around and say, well, no, black on black, the black on black crime don't exist. Black on black crime isn't real. They made that up. The white people made that up. No, they didn't make it up. They didn't make it up. When I had my friend that got murdered, that wasn't made up. He's really dead. He's really in a casket. So stop telling me that black on black crime isn't real, because I know people who've been victims of that. And when you say it's not real, what you're doing is you're disrespecting the victims. What you're doing is you're telling them that your narrative does not matter. You're saying your death is not important because it does not fit the broader socialist agenda of taking down the police state and undermining capitalism and all these other things that they did when they created communist puppets that they proclaimed to be civil rights leaders that were literally using us to pursue a bigger agenda. That's what's been going on for about 60 or 70 years. It's not a coincidence that all these things are being revealed right now, because there's a deeper game going on than what we were aware of. So let me show you some more stats. Here's another stat. Most crimes are actually intraracial. So if you wanted to say that white on white crime exists, it does. White victims are killed by white offenders about 2,594 times, at least in 2019. There were white men or white women, white people killed by other white people 2,594 times. But pay attention, look at this. Remember, we're 13% of the population. So our number should be much smaller than 2,594, right? Do you follow it? Give me a guess if you follow that. That because we're a smaller percentage of the population, if their number is 2,594, our number should be maybe, I don't know, maybe like 500 or maybe 400 or 500 max, right? Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you get the logic? Okay, what's our number? It should be about 400, right? No, the number of black people killed by other black people is 2,574. That was in 2019. This is according to the FBI. White on white murders, 2,594. Black on black murders, 2,574. So what this says is that, yes, you can make the argument, yeah, white people kill white people more than black people kill black people. Sure. By 20, right, it's 74 versus 94. But do you understand me when I make this simple point to you? Tell me if you're getting this point. I want to make sure I don't gloss over this. These numbers should not be the same. These numbers should not be the same. The number of white people killing white people should not be the same as the number of black people killing black people. We are 13% of the population. Do you follow? Do you understand? So when somebody says we have to deal with black on black crime, and then you say, no, that's not true, because white on white crime, why are the numbers the same? Do you understand that? And the reality is that a lot of you have people in your own family that were killed by other black people. You know, and so I it drives me insane when I hear people, you know, and I like Jamal. When I met him, he was a nice guy. But one thing that has to stop is we got to stop. First of all, we got to stop letting these damn rappers get money from their slave masters to promote violence in our communities. I mean, there are places I can go right now. I don't know what white hood I can go to where somebody might pull out a chopper and take me out and carjack me or kill me. I don't know I'm sure that they exist. You can tell me where they might be. Maybe I've been to Appalachia. I've been to Eastern Kentucky. I've been to the hills. I'm talking about where white people were dirt, nasty, danky, poor. And sure, I'm sure there were some criminals up in there. They got a meth problem. They got a lot of issues, right? So, but I can tell you this, while it would be very difficult for me to find a white neighborhood where I might get shot, I could find a black neighborhood in about 10 minutes. I know exactly where to go if I wanted to go to a black hood and be killed. And now, is this the fault of the kids? No, a lot of them are babies. No, it's a culture. It's a cultural problem that you have not addressed because your Democratic Party slave masters have not allowed you to address it. You will never solve the problem because these people control your mind. These people tell you what you're allowed to think. They tell you what you're allowed to say. I get it all the time, but I don't listen. I don't care. I just don't give a fuck. I just tell them to fuck off. I'm looking at truth. And at the end of the day, if we don't start looking at truth, we're going to always be behind. We're going to always be lost. I'm going to tell you, I hear so much fear coming from my community. I hear so much fear. I hear so many people telling me I'm supposed to be afraid of Donald Trump. And I'm like, but where I come from, men don't sit around in fear of other men. Where I come from, a man don't sit around shriveling up his testicles like a little punk, scared like, oh, Lordy G, what they gonna do? They gonna take the ways. They gonna take away our jobs and our black jobs and our DEIs. They gonna take away our civil. I don't do that buck jive and slave dance. That's not something I don't know what that is. What I can tell you is that when I have concerns for young black boys, my concern is not Donald Trump. My concern is that public school he's going to go to, that you're going to send him to, that is never going to teach that boy how to read. It's never going to teach him how to write. It's not going to teach him how to do math. It's not going to teach him how to compete. That's my fear for him. My fear for him is not the Republican Party. My fear is that he's going to be inundated and brainwashed by the age of 10 with homicidal music by homicidal Jeffrey Dahmer-ass maniacs who hate black people, who want black people dead, who are going to do everything they can in these lyrics that will pierce his subconscious mind and tell him at an early age that he needs to be a gangster, a thug, a killer, a carjacker, and start looking up to drug dealers. Some of our children look up to drug dealers more than they look up to doctors and lawyers and scientists. So of course you're going to have a violence issue if the children are being raised this way. My concern is for the boy is that he's gonna grow up in a world that's gonna tell him that it's better to become Cam Newton and play football than it is for him to try to actually go and start a company and be able to provide for himself, even in case he doesn't grow up to be 6'5", 240 pounds. That's my fear for him. And then when he's trying to be a husband and a father at the age of 30, people are going to say that the reason he can't read, the reason he can't write, the reason he can't do math, the reason he has no income, the reason his woman's disrespecting him because he can't provide for his family, the reason his life ain't right is because it's the Republicans' fault. If you keep giving your children a false narrative, they are going to live in a failed reality. What all this fear that some folks have in Donald Trump, I don't vote for Democrats or Republicans, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm a man, and I'm a free American. You cannot tell me who to vote for. That is never going to happen. But one thing I will say to you is that if you talk about the things that we should worry about, other than just who's in the White House. I encourage you to stop worrying about Trump and start worrying about your goddamn kids. Instead of worrying about Trump, why don't you worry about your health? And all that food, all that fried chicken and soul food you're eating every day, it's going to get your foot cut off when you're 45 years old. Got black men like DMX dying at the age of 45 and stuff like that, right? Why don't you worry about that? Why don't you worry about your families falling apart? The inability, the fact that we can make a baby and the couple's broken up before the baby's even born, and that is now the norm in the black community, speaks to the fact that you have a massive cultural problem. Just by virtue of the fact that the parents are broken up before the baby's born because you got this sex addiction that hasn't been addressed, that you're using to put a Band-Aid on your trauma that you haven't healed from, means that your child has a far greater likelihood of ending up dead or in prison and a victim of black on black crime or something. Maybe instead of worrying about Trump, maybe we can worry about our black economics. Maybe instead of sitting around hoping white folks will give us another DEI program to save us, maybe you can learn how to save yourself. Maybe, how about that? What do you think about that? Do you think that maybe, or do you think that we're just too handicapped and too disabled and too ignorant and too backward to do anything on our own, that we need white folks to give us permission before we can do anything with ourselves? Maybe instead of worrying about Trump, maybe you need to worry about the fact that your kids are going to school and they can't read. Is that a bigger concern, or do you think that removing the orange man from the White House is going to make your life better miraculously? What's happening between you and your white Jesus that's making you think that this stuff is even going to make a difference in your life? The thing that makes a difference in your life is you. You are the president of the United States when it comes to your life. You are the leader of your life. You are the sole determinant as to whether or not you will end up in a good space or a bad space. Didn't no Republican make you go out and create 6 babies mamas? No Republican ever snatched a book out of your hand when you're trying to go read and learn. No Republican is going to tell you that you can't save your money and invest your money and start a business. No Republican's ever going to tell you that you can't raise your kids. So when we sit here and we want to just make everything about the politics and ignore the personal choices, then that makes us a pack of suckers. And so with Jamal, again, I didn't dislike everything he said. He's a better speaker than me. Pastors know how to speak. The pastors are basically rappers who smoke less weed. That's what so a preacher know how to get up there. They make it rhyme. They repeat themselves. And then you have the dogs. And then you got the cats. And then you got the monkeys. And then you got the rats. And then you got the hats. And then you got the beats. And then you got the chicken. And then you got the treats. Like, pastors know how to do that, right? So God bless him for that. He's a far better speaker than me. So he's going to sound good when he says it. And because we have a community that doesn't really always embrace critical thinking skill, people are going to fall for a sermon, even if the pastor ain't saying nothing. Y'all ever been to church where the pastor literally repeats himself for a whole hour and you're like, you didn't say nothing except Jesus climbed the hill, right? And then when the pastors get political, it really looks stupid. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Forgive me. My mama was a solid Christian. And one thing my mama did as a real strong Christian was she stopped going to church. I said, Mama, why would you stop going to church when you love God? She said, how can I love God and love the Bible, but then I'm letting the Democrats tell me that abortion is a good thing? How is it that it's in the Bible? Did they say that, yes, thou shalt kill your baby if you ain't got enough money, or thou shalt kill your baby if you want to go to another freak off? Thou shalt, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's very weird to me. I'm sorry. When you have pastors that, I get it if you are pro-choice. I'm not telling you that you can't be pro-choice. I'm probably pro-choice myself, to be honest with you. I just wish we would make better choices and think carefully about our choices. That's what I'm saying. So I'm pro-choice. So if you're pro-choice, don't get offended. I support you. I do. I wouldn't support like a law. Okay, so let's just be clear. Do we understand each other? But why is your pastor telling you to be pro-choice? It's because he's in bed with the Democratic Party. For a lot of black pastors, and I don't know if Jamal's in this category or not, but I see a lot of black pastors that spend more time wanting to be famous than they spend really truly wanting to connect with God. That's the first thing. Second of all, I see a lot of pastors who preach a gospel that I just don't understand. It is a gospel that appears to be tainted by whatever the white liberals tell them to say. So if a Democrat comes in and says, yeah, that's in the Bible, but I need you to go ahead and preach this other thing because this is what Satan told me to tell you, a lot of pastors will do that. A lot of pastors will go along with whatever the political party tells them to say. And I'm one of those people that says church and state should be separated. I'm one of those people who believes that you should leave your politics out of the room when you're talking about connecting with God. Everyone else, and the idea, and if you read a book like Powernomics, if you read Dr. Claude Anderson, which every black person, so Cam Newton, if you see this video, you need to read Powernomics, bro, so you can really understand what's going on in the world. He will explain to you how the black pastor has always been in cahoots with the white master to control the minds of black slaves, that the black pastor has always been the primary tool used by the master to control the slaves. And then the rappers came along, and the pastors ain't nothing but rappers that smoke less weed. That's all they are. They basically do the same thing. That's why a lot of rappers and pastors are friends. You go to Jamal's church, you're gonna see T.I. up in the front row, and whatever shenanigans T.I. has gotten involved with, it's all forgiven because you're rich and you're famous, and that's okay. That's what makes you special in this church, right? So again, a lot of these people. I know people who know people, so I'm not trying to be offensive or nothing like that. I met Tip in Ghana. Actually, the same trip I went to Ghana. I saw Jamal. I talked to him. I saw Tip. I talked to him. So I don't have anything against these guys. I think that everybody's nuanced and there are things to admire. But one of the things that isn't nuanced is that we have to start committing to the truth as black people. And the truth is that the number one reason that you're not advancing collectively is because you ain't got the guts to do it. You ain't got the guts. If we want to talk about immigrants, Jamal was bringing up immigrants, which, again, that's another Democratic Party talking point, right? You can only have a certain opinion about immigration. You cannot deviate from that, or Kamala Harris is going to come and spank you or whatever, right? But even the immigrants come in and they're like, African Americans, they just don't seem to really have it. They're missing the it factor. What's the it factor? The it factor is, are you making sure that all your children have a skill before they graduate where they can go in and if you need a contractor and you need a plumber and an electrician and an HVAC person, can you call an African-American company with solid workers who are going to get the job done? Not so much. Not to say that they don't exist, but not so much. You're calling the Mexicans, you're calling the Ukrainians, you're calling the Russians or whatever. But African-Americans, we don't have the reputation of being ultra serious when it comes to our business, when it comes to our families, and you got to admit that. You can't sit here and pretend like everything is all about the racism. It is about the racism, but it ain't about the racism. Meaning that, yes, everything that they've done to infect you, what they do to your children when you put them in school, that does affect you. That is about the racism. When the music they put on the airways that makes our kids lazy and want to get into dope and looking up to drug dealers, yes, that is part of the racism. But then there's also a part where you have control too. You see, what you got to understand is that consciousness has multiple levels. Everybody want to be woke. Everybody want to talk about what it means to be conscious. Well, let's talk about consciousness for a minute. Every morning we do a class called Financial Consciousness. If you want to join for free, go to drboyceelevate.com. My PhD's in finance. I can teach you about economics. I teach thousands of people every morning for free. And you can also text the word morning to the number 87948. We're going to meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We do this 7 days a week because I'm an extremist when it comes to black economics. Absolute extremist, because I believe that is the one thing. If we get that right, most problems will be solved. But let's talk about consciousness. See, there's consciousness, which is awareness and understanding what's going on. But then there's like a consciousness of your consciousness, right? So even the most conscious people are not always conscious all the time. Just like Michael Jordan was the best basketball player ever, in my opinion, but he wasn't always the best every single day. Right. So being the best doesn't mean you're always at your best. So there has to be a consciousness on top of the consciousness. Like, are you conscious of how conscious you're being right now? Like that person that goes to church and says, I'm conscious of the Holy Spirit. I'm conscious of God. I got God consciousness. But then next day she's at the club and she's twerking it and she's doing all the freaky, crazy stuff that some of these church folks like to do. Right. So her consciousness has actually dropped. So she's not conscious of her consciousness level in terms of keeping it at a level that she needs it to be. That's sort of a renewal process. You have to renew that every day. So with that being said, I think that the fact that we are becoming conscious of what that man did to us. We're becoming conscious of what they're doing to us. We're conscious of the systematic racism. I think it's time for us to take it up another notch. When you become conscious and then you become conscious of your consciousness, right? We talk about Black consciousness and the lack thereof. That's us being conscious of our consciousness. That is the point where you then have the ability, despite what's happened to you, you have the ability to take responsibility for your life. You can't say, well, the reason I'm not succeeding is because Donald Trump did X, Y, Z. You can't say, well, I'm not succeeding because you know the white man always take it away from us. No, he didn't. The white man don't tell you. You got that iPhone that you bought and you've been scrolling all day. And did you scroll to any page that's going to give you some knowledge, or were you just scrolling to pages like the Shade Room so you can read about gossip and watching ESPN all day, all these sports teams that ain't even sending you a check every time that they win? Like, what are you doing with your time? See, it's one thing. When you get to the point, let me explain. When you get to the point where you can point to the white man as the reason that you don't know what's going on, that right there tells me that you know what's going on. If you know what I mean, does that make sense? It's almost like when my mama told me that the day she knew that she had to potty train me was the day that I walked up to her when I was a baby. This is kind of funny. I'm a little embarrassed to tell the story, but she said, I walked up to her, I put a diaper on the bed, I laid down, and I said, change me, right? So she said that's when she knew that, okay, it's time for him to learn how to take care of himself, right? So my point is to say this. Look, if you're sitting here and you try to tell me that every problem in the Black community is because of the Trump supporters, you know, and then you can't even give me evidence. Like, you're telling me, oh, they're going to come kill us. They're going to do this and do that. But you can't. But I say, okay, well, show me where the Trump supporters came into the Black community with AK-47s and said, we're going to kill all the Black people. You can't do that. You just say, this is what's going to happen. That's a little weird for me. I don't understand. That does not compute for me. Or if you tell me that Black on Black crime is a myth, which means all those dead Black people who got murdered by other Black people, they don't exist. You say Black lives matter, but apparently all Black lives don't matter. If they were killed by another Black person, then you pretty much said that it's a myth. They didn't really die. Maybe they went to heaven or something, but or Jamal's church, or I don't know, maybe they're in the basement somewhere. But to me, when a Black person dies, if Black lives matter, then the issue should be who did it and why. If a Black baby gets shot by a stray bullet in a Black neighborhood, this happens all the time in Chicago, should it really matter who shot the bullet? Should we pay less attention to the bullet if it doesn't fit a narrative? Because we know that if a cop shoots a stray bullet and kills that baby, oh, we protest and we in the street, we march and we going crazy. But if a gangbanger, some little Negro from the hood, shoots a stray bullet and kills that same little girl, why is it that nobody protests that? Why is it that no one says anything? See, because at the end of the day, if Black children are being ruined, which they are, but in droves, I don't care if they're being ruined by a Democrat or Republican. I don't care if they're being ruined by a white or a Black person. I want to get to the heart of the issue. My background and my training isn't just finance; it's high-level mathematics. I had to study a lot of mathematics to get a PhD in finance. And one thing about mathematics, and I taught math at the University of Kentucky. One thing about mathematics is that you have to eventually solve the problem. And if you have a problem and you don't solve the problem by crying about the problem, you don't solve the problem by deflecting blame for the problem. You certainly don't solve a problem by ignoring the problem. You solve problems by addressing the problem and looking at it in an objective fashion and trying to find the solution. So the reason that your problems don't get solved is because when I bring up a problem, I say, okay, lots of Black children are dying. What's going on? Well, people will say, well, Black on Black crime doesn't exist, so let's not talk about that. Or if I say Black children can't read, what's going on? And then somebody says, well, it's because the Republicans won't help them read and they're cutting Black history out of the schools. But I'm like, but wait a minute, but those schools were run by Democrats. Well, then it's like, oh, well, you're a Trump supporter. You must be a Trump supporter, right? So what's happening is that your problems don't get, so pay attention now. Do y'all get what I'm saying? I'm a problem solver here. So problems don't get solved in the Black community because you have too much emotionality. You have too much deflection. You have too much ignorance, meaning ignoring the issue. People just act like it doesn't exist. When they tell you Black on Black crime doesn't exist, that should offend you. And I'm sorry, Jamal, I'm offended by that. I don't know which white Democrat told you to say Black on Black crime doesn't exist, but I bet when their relatives get killed, they don't ignore it. So why would you ignore it when your own people are being killed? I don't care if a Black baby's killed by a Black man or a white man. That son of a bitch needs to be dealt with. If you Black and you hurt a Black person, you kill a Black person, you are just as bad as a white person who hurts a Black person, maybe worse. If you are a rapper and you claim to be a member of the Black community, but all you've done is rap about murdering Black people, getting Black children hooked on drugs at an early age so you can ruin their lives, destroy Black families because these men are then incapable of becoming healthy husbands and fathers in some cases, because brain damage is very real from drugs. If you're encouraging children to be ignorant, to throw all their wealth away, not only are you as bad as a Klansman, you're worse than a Klansman. You're worse. You are the Trojan horse full of poison. That's what you are, because everyone will let you in. They let you into the neighborhood. They invite you to the cookout. They bring you into the community. They let you into their psyches. And then when you get in there, all you do is you poison the children and make sure they don't have a chance to have a healthy, free life. Any rapper who's ever even glorified something like prison should probably be, I'm not going to say get the death penalty, but it feels that way. It's like what you did is you literally took this little boy who could have been anything. He could have been a doctor, a lawyer. He could have been a scientist. He could have been an entrepreneur. He could have been a great husband and father. He could have been a great leader for his family. You could have poured that into him, but instead you said, nah, little nigga, get you a little gun, get you a little strap and go up here and kill somebody. Now he's in prison. He's depressed. He's unhappy. He's being raped every other day by big guys in prison. He's got 40 years away from his mama. And all of this is because before he had a chance to develop his brain fully, you made sure that you did your job as an artist and destroyed this young man. And everybody let you off the hook because you have money and because white people put you on TV. So if you want to talk about racism in America, I believe you need to talk about that. And this racism is not laced in Democrat or Republican politics. It's not. You're gonna have to learn how to think beyond. If you think you understand racism and all you do is talk about Democrat, Republican, oh, Trump this, Elon Musk that, you don't understand racism in America at all. You don't understand. Dr. Claude Anderson, what he explains in Powernomics is that Black folks ain't got no friends. That literally, here's the deal. If you want a solution for the Black community, for any Black person, how many of you, let's end on something positive. I don't want to sound so negative today. And I admit I'm a little bit, it's weekend. So it's when I kind of let loose. Give me a yes in the chat if you're Black and you want to be successful. Give me a yes if you believe in Black success. Give me a yes if you want success to be in your family. Give me a yes if you want great things to happen in your life and you expect these things to happen. Give me a yes. Let's put success in the room, because I came in with a little bit negative because I admit what Jamal said kind of triggered me a little bit. So give me a yes in the chat so we can end on a good note. If you want to be Black and successful, here's some basic things you can do that will make a massive amount of difference. Number one, you got to heal. The number one problem in the Black community is undiagnosed, untreated trauma, which causes you to treat others badly. It also causes you to make bad decisions in your relationships, with your finances, with everything else. Traumatized people have a higher likelihood of dying early. They have a higher likelihood of getting cancer. They have a higher likelihood of getting hooked on drugs. They have a higher likelihood of just making a lot of really bad decisions because trauma is very, very real. My wife is a therapist. She helped us in the Black Business School to create the first ever Black financial therapy department. And in our research, we have found that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is one of the leading causes for the decline in Black wealth. So you got to heal. If you heal, then what will happen is you will show up better for all the people that you love. You will show up better for your children. You will show up better for that Black woman. You will show up better for your business partners. You will show up better for yourself. You will make the decisions that you won't regret. Your life won't be filled with regrets. Your life will be filled with all kinds of possibility because you made the right choice. You didn't follow the Negro protocol of ruining your life and then being sad about it. You actually proactively thought about your choices and made good choices along the way. That is capable for a Black person, but you got to get away from Negroism in order for that to happen. Number two, we got to look at our physical health. Everything in Black culture in terms of the food that we are told to eat is stuff that will kill you at a very early age. My beloved mother just died of cancer on Christmas Eve of 2024, just a few weeks ago. And I have to admit that my mother's food, her diet, was not the healthiest diet in the world. This is an American issue. This is not just a Black issue, but Black people, we tend to get the worst because we get the worst food marketed to us. Again, this is where the racism does exist in America. They market the cheeseburgers and the fried chicken and everything else. And we will run and spend our money on this stuff, and this stuff will kill you. So I would encourage you, if you want to be physically healthy, go to the gym, make exercise part of your life. Eat better food if you can. I know it's hard. Food is an addiction, but we all got to try to do better. If you are physically and mentally healthier, as a Black person, you will have a better life. Number three, we got to have better relationships with each other. Good relationships is a skill that you can actually learn. You can read books on it. You can take classes on it. You can watch videos about it. This is a skill that is as important as any science or math or accounting or dentistry or mechanical work. Anything you've learned in school, relationships is right up there in terms of importance. It is right up there. A lot of people out here trying to wing it, and you're jacking up your kids when you do it. Divorce rates through the roof. Relationships can't last until the people breaking up after the baby shower. You're showing up for the sex, but ain't showing up for the responsibility. This is a common thing that happens amongst traumatized people because the sex feels good. The dopamine, it gives you temporary release from all the pain that you feel from the undiagnosed, untreated trauma. So you're getting in there and having sex and everything because the world tells you that that's okay. And the liberals tell you that free sex and free love is the way to do it. You just abort the baby if the baby gets on your nerves. And next thing you know, you're creating this chaotic, ridiculous life, and it's spilling over on your kids. Your kids are suffering even more than you are because nobody ever taught you about the importance of balance and discipline and planning and the value of a good, healthy relationship. Do y'all know that the number one wealth hack in America is just finding a woman or a man that you can get along with who can help you pay the bills? Do you know that? Do you know that me and my wife, our bills are half of what they normally would be just because we work on our marriage so we can get along well enough to pay the mortgage and pay for the kids and all this other stuff? Don't you dare tell me that relationships are all about who you fucking. It ain't no situationships and 50-50, all these dumb conversations on the internet. It's dumb conversations with dumb young people who are going to have dumb, crazy lives. And when you acting like a damn clown, then the circus is going to follow you everywhere you go. Because you're acting like a clown. You're not making a plan. You're not thinking things through. You're not trying to make intelligent, logical, careful decisions. You're literally going from one orgasm to the other because that's all that you know. That's all that society talks to you about. And I can just tell you that there's life after the orgasm. And I think a lot of people forget that. Healthy relationships. Learn how to be an asset in the lives of other people. Put your damn ego to the side. Stop going into your relationships as a narcissist. Nobody will be around no damn narcissist. Well, I know my worth. Women got to submit to me. Stop all that. Just learn how to pick the right people and get along with them. That will help you win your economic survival. You do know that all these statistics where they talk about how people are struggling financially to get by in America, you know that most of those people are single, right? You do know that, right? People that work in groups, they don't have that problem. People that have, a spouse or maybe children or family business, they don't got those issues. Those are Negro problems. Those are problems of people that think that they don't need nobody else and they can do it all by themselves. I'm a strong Black woman who don't need no man. I don't need these hoes. I'm a divest. Okay, well, you go and do that. You go and do it all by yourself, and you neglect how valuable a hardworking Black woman next to you can be in your life. And then see how you do. A lot of people struggle because they're doing it by themselves. So relationship management is something that children should learn. It's something that makes a big difference in your life. It allows you to have business deals because people want to work with you. And again, this is where the racism comes in. because a lot of the messages in hip hop from hip hop artists is a very narcissistic, self-absorbed message. The most frustrating conversation in the world I ever had was the one I had with Kanye West. And I didn't call him. I don't call celebrities. They call me. When they hear about me, they reach out sometimes. And I talked to Kanye for 12 hours. And it was a very unpleasant experience because the only person that Kanye sees in every conversation is himself. And I said, I don't want to work with an asshole. So don't be an asshole. If you're a good person, sometimes we call good people simps, or we call them pick-me's. But I'm going to tell you, the simps and the pick-me's are the ones who are doing better. They're winning because they're able to get along with another person by not putting their own needs first all the time. But we mislabel it and make people say, well, I don't want to be no simp. I don't want to be no pick-me. No, I'm a simp for my wife and my family because I want us to get along well enough to raise these babies so we can have a strong, secure situation here. You know, when I talked to my children's father, I married her. She had 3 kids. When I talked to my children's father, I showed the utmost respect. We don't have pissing contests with each other because we know that we're here to collaborate on a project that is bigger than both of us. And the project is called, how do we raise these crazy ass kids and make sure they get to adulthood safely? So you're getting the wrong message. I get criticized all the time. People say, well, you need to connect to the culture, Doc. You're not connected to the culture. It's not my job to be part of the damn culture. I'm 53 years old. I ain't trying to fit in. What do you think? I'm trying to be cool? Trying to think I'm not, this ain't Earn Your Leisure. I'm not trying to fit in. I like Earn Your Leisure. I like those guys, by the way, but I'm not trying to fit into the culture. If the culture is stupid, I don't want no parts of it. And it's my job as a senior person to critique the culture and to speak truth about the culture, not to say, well, let me just fit in so I can be lit. Yo, I don't even know how to do that. I don't care about doing that. You need people over 50 to tell you the truth. I don't know why some people are afraid to do that, but I don't care about the culture. Not that culture. That's not my culture. That's white culture that they just gave to black people. They're like, we're going to give you the garbage culture, so you'll have the garbage children in the garbage community, and then you can blame it on the Republicans. No. No, thank you, sir. So what else can you do? Well, you know, did you get to the area that I do? This is what I do. The wealth part. The wealth part is so easy. The wealth part is so remarkably easy. You have no idea how easy it is to be financially secure and wealthy in America if you are healthy and mentally healed and have somebody in your life that gives a damn about you. Really, it's very easy. Like, so for example, if you had a parent who said, gosh, I don't want my daughter turning tricks at the age of 30 to pay the rent, so let me buy her some Apple stock. And it's 1997. She's still a baby. You buy the baby some Apple stock every Christmas and every birthday. That child now has many millions of dollars in the bank account, and she's financially secure. She ain't got the Negro problems, all because she had a parent who was conscious enough to actually engage in financial consciousness and start making investments for that child. That's it. That's it. I mean, we for some reason we understand the importance of feeding the kids. We understand the importance of sending a little boy to football practice and basketball practice. We send a little girl to cheerleading camp. We'll buy them new clothes every school year. But somebody never taught us that, hey, you know, if you buy some stock for that kid, you do know that the stock market is the #1 wealth generator in America. You do know that while you sitting back being mad about all the little billionaires that Trump had on the dais with him when he did the inauguration, you do know that out of that 1.3 trillion in wealth on that stage, that most of that wealth came from the stock market. You do know that, right, dude? We know these things, right? I hope we know. Not one person on that stage with Trump is a person that gets up and goes to work 40 hours a week at a job. There weren't UPS employees on that stage. God bless them. There weren't DEI hires on the stage. No, again, I don't want to put the white man on a pedestal. I'm just telling you the facts. The stock market is the #1 wealth builder in America. Why would you not participate? Oh, because of the culture. Because you got bad culture. You got bad culture. That's what's coming. So I would almost say, and I stupidly say this in a way that's going to probably be offensive to any dumbass that comes in and wants to get mad at me because I refuse to be a Democrat or a Republican. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. If you simply loved your kids enough to buy them small amounts of stock from the time they're born, all their financial problems pretty much disappear as long as you make sure that they're psychologically healthy, which by keeping your family together, you significantly increase the probability that your daughter ain't gonna have some daddy issues. Because sometimes not having a daddy can create a daddy issue, right? Like not having a daddy in the house, right? So I would just say that these problems are quite solvable, but they're not solvable if you're distracted. And we get distracted by our emotions. We get distracted by the Democrats telling us that the Republicans are the reason for all of our problems, not them. We get distracted by all these politics. And just, if you just do the right thing and raise your kids right and make simple decisions, a lot of these problems go away. A lot of them go away. And so if you want to hear where I come from and why I sound so frustrated, because again, remember, I'm not in my 30s or my 40s. I'm 53 years old now. I'm too old to be young and stupid. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at being young and stupid. So what this comes from is me spending 20 years listening to politicians, letting them fast talk me, letting them pimp me, letting them talk to me, like I got on a mini skirt and I'm supposed to go out and work for them. And me realizing like ain't none of this stuff that y'all telling me to do is working. Ain't none of this stuff working. But what does work is when I get up off my ass as a black man and read a book, do some research, treat my wife well, raise these damn kids, save my money, not get caught up in temptation too much. I mean, we're human. We all make mistakes. I make a banana split once a week. My wife tells me that that's not good for me, but you got to live. But at the end of the day, balance, moderation, and knowing how to live a proper life goes a very long way for people. And for anybody who's looking for another solution, I just want to encourage you, think outside that box. It was very sad for me when I was 21 years old and I was the number one student on my campus. I had the highest grade point average of all the black students. And it made me very sad that I could not find other black males to really hang out with because too many of them, unfortunately, had been cursed by bad culture. They didn't want to study. They thought that I was a nerd because I would be in the library, but I was just competitive. I'm like, the same way you want to kick ass on the football field, I want to kick ass in the classroom. The same way you can go dunk a basketball, I'm going to dunk on these fools in science class, right? The same way you the fastest kid on the track team, I want to be the fastest thinker on earth. Like what the say, I don't understand why you don't understand what I'm doing. And some people get it. There are a lot of people that get it. This is the thing. We got to make sure we're clear about this, though. There are a lot of you that understand what I'm talking about. A lot of you that are doing it at the highest levels. I'm going to tell you, one guy that I was thinking about the other day was Marcus Freeman, the coach at Notre Dame. Anybody see Marcus Freeman? I like Marcus Freeman. He's under 40. He's the head coach of Notre Dame. He's probably making millions of dollars a year. He seems smart and disciplined. He was a hell of an athlete. And I like him. I identify with him because I was an athlete too. I wasn't as good of an athlete as him, but I like the idea of us understanding what it means to compete. That's my point. It's about competing. And I think that we live in a country where the black man is encouraged not to compete. He's encouraged to complain. And all that complaining makes you look very weak. It makes you look really, I would say feminine, but that's an insult to strong women because even strong women are stronger than some of these guys. And I think that's the racism in America. So if you ask me if racism exists, yeah, it does. But it's not what you think that it is. Right. It's not just some Trump supporter wearing a MAGA hat. No, it's a whole system and a whole process that's really designed, in my opinion, to get you to think poorly of yourself. Right. Like how they rope-a-doped you into calling yourself a nigga so much that you literally only react when a white man says it. but you'll call yourself a nigga 25 times a day. But then if a white man says it once, you start freaking out and going crazy. And then you're ready to punch somebody and go to jail. That doesn't make sense. If I'm not gonna be a nigga when you say it, I ain't gonna be a nigga when he says it. How about we pick another word? Like, is that the only word you can think of? Is that literally the only word? So that's just it, man. That's my 2 cents. I'm sure Jamal and Cam have good things to say, and I respect them, but some of the stuff I ain't signing up for it. I think it's nonsense, and it doesn't solve the problem. So I encourage you to solve the problem, because there is a way out. There is a way to achieve your goals. There's a way to be what you want to be. There's a way to compete with the world, and that's not something somebody's going to give you. It's something that you have to get for yourself. That to me is the ultimate Black consciousness. Okay. All right. Anyway, guys, I'm about to get out of here. We have things like tools that you can use for your family. I developed some financial flashcards for children. You can go to drboycebooks.com. The URL's on the screen. We have workbooks for kids, things like that. We also have, my book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So you can go to drboycebooks.com to take a look at that. Also, if you want to join us for class tomorrow, every morning, so I don't just talk, I put my money where my mouth is. Every morning I teach finance for free. So you can go to drboyceelevate.com to join our millionaire training camp. We do this every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And also, if you want to be notified via text, if you're going to get a text message, like kind of a wake-up call to let you know when class starts, all you got to do is text the word morning to the number 87948. So if you text morning to 87948, I will let you guys know. Yolanda, I don't know which book you're referring to. I think you're talking about Powernomics. Powernomics is by Dr. Claude Anderson, Yolanda. So I think that's it. I just talked to Dr. Claude Anderson the other day. And Busy Works Beats, love listening to a Boyce Watkins live stream every day. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you saying that, man. It's nice to know that I'm not the only alien out here, because I know that not everybody thinks this way, and it ain't popular. It doesn't fit into a Democrat or Republican agenda. I'm kind of hated by both sides. But the area where I'm an extremist is that I'm definitely 100% pro-Black. I'm also 100% pro-wealth, and I'm 100% pro-Black wealth. And I believe that if we build our wealth and we get our finances right and we become the leading economic thinkers on the planet, which I know that we can be, can't nobody stop us. Ain't nobody going to stop you. You know, to hell with these damn politicians. You got this. You can win. You will succeed if you demand it. So let's go out here and fight it, everybody. Okay. All right. Let's go get it done. All right. So have a good night, everybody. And also I do have this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify, look up my name, you'll find the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. Also I have Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market, another stock market related podcast that I do. We do a lot of stuff in the Black Business School, and I'm very proud of that. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.